Good evening and welcome to the MSAD 51 Board of Directors meeting and workshop. I'm so grateful to be here with all of you this evening. I really actually enjoy this format where we're all sitting around together versus how this room is usually set up, is like all the Board of Directors are kind of just in a line, and I can't usually see any of them, so having everyone spread out around is wonderful. So the format of tonight is a little different than a typical board meeting. We're just going to have a couple items of board business really quickly before we move into the workshop. The first will just be an approval of minutes by the board, and then we do open up for public comment. I have a few remarks, and then I have 2 sign-ups. I'll double check before I move to public comment in case anybody has come in and would like to speak. So our first item of business is our approval of minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the December 18th, 2025 meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Megan. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jesse, or Sean.
Good
Here we go.
Good start, everybody.
See, we're not our usual setup. You guys are going to mess with me.
It's the hair.
Any comments or questions about the meeting minutes? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Great. It's unanimous. So the next section of the agenda is public comment. Before I proceed with reading tonight's procedures, I did just want to check, was anyone else here hoping to make public comment? Okay, so I have 2 people signed up. So the board welcomes and recognizes the value of public comment. To ensure public comment is fair and orderly, we follow procedures outlined in our board policy, BEDH, and we ask that all members of the public do so as well. We follow this policy to help keep the meeting civil, respectful, and productive, and we also hope this allows for all community members who would like to speak to be heard. We want to mention public comment is one of the many ways that you can connect with the school board. All of us have a school board email address that is available and are happy to meet with any members of the community who'd like to reach out. For public comment tonight, I'll use the sign-up list. Residents and staff are always given priority, but since we only have 2 people, we should be able to get through everyone. I'll invite the speaker to use the designated podium when making their comments and speak into the microphone. Comments by individuals are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes at a meeting. The clock will be visible on screen, and after the 3 minutes goes off, the comment should be wrapped up. Please state your name and town of residence before beginning your remarks. Lastly, please keep comments respectful and civil. We are neighbors here, be kind, and this includes members of the audience. Please do not direct any comments at or about individuals in our schools or community, and please direct your comments at myself, the chair. And I'll welcome our first member to come public comment, Michael Doyle.
Come on in. Let's stay.
Oh.
Me too.
I'm Michael Doyle. I live in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I own and write for FalmouthToday.me. Last time I was here, I was taken away in handcuffs and arrested by the police and went through a trial at the Cumberland County Superior Court for criminal trespass. I lost that case by a jury decision. My lawyer appealed it because, one, the judge didn't understand the First Amendment. You would think that he'd understand that part of it. And then he couldn't explain it to the jury. So I won the appeal by my lawyer filing a 30-page brief explaining these Supreme Court decisions. Connick versus Myers, Snyder v. Phelps, Texas v. Johnson, New York Times v. Sullivan, Board of County Commissioners versus Umbra. These specifically outline everything you just said about public speaking at this podium is against the law. None of that controls. Once you're at the public podium, you can say anything you want, but I'll be respectful. The prosecutor didn't even file a response to the appeal. He sent a 1-paragraph letter to the Supreme Court. explaining that Jeff Porter's testimony was so inadequate during the trial that they could not file a reply. He did not develop enough testimony to answer the appeal. So I'm coming back here to just, do my little victory dance here in your school board meeting, and I'm gonna have some fun with you folks now. I can say anything I want, anytime I want. You can't stop me from saying it. If you do, just add it to the lawsuit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, I have Jessica Windsor.
Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Windsor. I live in Cumberland, right up the road. I'm a community member and I'm a mother of children in this district. And I am a proud member of the ESP team of the district. I am a front secretary at Greeley Middle School. I'm 4.5 years in, and I still wake up every morning and love to go to work. And 199 days, maybe 200, something like that, without a contract today. And we've been here multiple times, and we've asked you guys to be in support of us and to rise up and to seal the deal and help us get a contract that honors us and pays us a livable wage so we can stay in this district and we can live in the homes around the corner from where our kids go to school. And people like me and the amazing group of ESPs in this district that support, educate, love, play, sing, dance, educate, teach, cry, feed, slap on the Band-Aids, show up at meetings, part of the transition committees, volunteer, all of it. We show up every day because we love each other, we love this town, we love this district, but we still can't pay our bills on the wages that we have. We're not asking for rocket science, we're not asking for millions, we're asking for you guys to be leaders and show that we are a priority. We're going on 200 days without a contract. That's ridiculous. Please. Oh, and by the way, we just got notice this week that in March, which is what, another 2 months, we're going to fact-finding, which is thousands of dollars out of your pockets to fight against paying us a reasonable wage. I'm asking, Leannon, I'm asking for you guys to send us something that explains why. Explain this to us. How can we leave this district, go home, and you guys make these decisions to go to fact-finding and spend thousands of dollars to fight against paying us a measly, whatever we're asking. The list goes on about where all the money is being distributed. You're going to talk at length tonight about all the money that's going to get redistributed. All right, but the people that are filling up the spaces in this district are asking for a livable, honorable wage. And we're still 200 days and now 2 months. And now you're going to pay more money to fight against us so we can go back and forth about explain it to us. What, we don't deserve it? We're doing something wrong? What is the justification? Please help us understand or wrap it up.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you. All right, and then I have Jean, and Jean, I'm just going to let you pronounce your last name at the podium so I don't get it wrong.
It's Kasinkas.
Kasinkas, thank you.
Okay.
It's well written, I just...
So my name is Gene Kasinkas. I'm a resident of 16 Pine Lane, where I've resided the last 12 plus years. Leanne, thank you for having this time for public comment. and for welcoming participation in the meetings. And also, I'm thankful for the school board and the superintendent's dedication and efforts. It's an incredibly challenging job, and so I just want you to know that the community really appreciates all the work that you do and all the time you volunteer, so thank you. I know, Jeff, you get paid a little. Anyway, I am a retired special educator. I enjoyed over 40 years in the field, and now I'm able to volunteer and support special education students in a grassroots manner. I realize I'm a little bit late to the preschool process in MSAD 51, but I'm very interested in the quality education of all preschool students, and most significantly, those with special education needs. I've been looking forward to this workshop for weeks, as I'd like to hear about the current pre-K offerings, like to review the new state requirements, and share my input on the several programs that you're considering. Given my experience, I feel I have much to offer to the conversation. The lack of early education services for special education preschoolers has been an ongoing problem at MSAD 51 and throughout the state of Maine for many years. We know that early intervention works. The research tells us that. So certainly we want to make sure that we do what is right for students when making this decision about programming moving forward. When these services are not consistently provided with evidence-based interventions and certified staff, which I have experienced myself, all this as part of early intervention, not only do children and families suffer, but the schools end up providing services for longer periods of time to individual students because they didn't get the support they needed early on. I'm convinced that the services that MSAD 51 has been wise enough to consider, and frankly has been providing in their 2-classroom model, will not only solve this problem for many local children, but will also raise the quality of early childhood care provided by preschool programs that our families use, and lower the cost of providing these services. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to learning more about the plans and being part of the process.
Thank you. Great. So I think that will end public comment. And I think this is officially us moving into the pre-K workshop section of the agenda. As I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, I'm so grateful to have this table to sit around with our board members, with our school administrators and providers of care in this district, and then also with our community providers.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
this is my first school board
oh,
meeting,
yes.
so I'm clearly not familiar with this. Can I go back to the public comment? Or is public comment allowed after the pre-K workshop?
So we have public comment set for before.
Okay.
So would you like?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Yes. Anyone else?
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I know. There are new faces, and I know. No problem.
I thought I'd learn a little bit and then tailor.
I know.
We're just gonna go on the fly. Okay, so I'm Caitlin, and I live in Cumberland. I have 2 kiddos at Mabel I. Wilson. One of my children benefited from early intervention. They went to Children's Odyssey and was tremendously successful. So I want to tell everyone a little bit about my story, because it really was life-changing to me and my family, and my child's success in life and becoming an astronaut someday. When I will admit that it is really confusing to understand the options that all of you are tasked with, figuring out. So I do not envy the position that any of you are in. But one thing I want you to think about is a child like mine who was kicked out of many places, who was not welcomed anywhere, who at 3.5 years old, he knew he was a bad kid. He felt like he had no place to succeed. And I'm, sharing a lot more because I think it's important. But what was really astonishing to me was the other parents were not as inclusive as my child as they thought they were. So one thing that I struggle with all of the proposals is, how do you truly create an inclusive environment, not only for that one child and that family, but how do you create a culture within that little microorganism of a classroom of 10 students that is truly going to change how our children treat each other? And I think they did that at Children's Odyssey. Now, for those of you that don't know about Children's Odyssey, they have children with hearing impairments and physical impairments, neurodiverse children. It is the most amazing, welcoming space that has animals in the hallway. During snow days, they make the hallways racetracks for bikes. It's like the most unicorn place ever. So my ask for you all, when you think about where we land at the end of the day, is how do we make a program that is a unicorn program? And I know that's a lot to ask for, but our children deserve it. My child deserved exactly what he got at Children's Odyssey that no one else, and no one else in our community could ever give him. And I really appreciate the comment from the former special ed director, because what matters most is that qualified clinical staff. I am not talking about warm, friendly bodies to take care of our children. I'm talking about people that are qualified to handle and to support a child and a family. And that honestly is the only reason he has been so successful at Mabel I. Wilson.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Was there, I know this is new for a lot of people, was there anybody else who would like to do public comment? Oh, yeah. Come on.
I also was going to listen and
Oh,
then...
yeah. Come on up.
Also a mother. My name is Jane Wilson. I'm a Cumberland resident, mother of 2 young kids, one at Mabel I, one will be in the system. Wanted to be sure with a kind of a similar theme that you all are aware that many children's needs will emerge while in preschool, and many families, I'm sure there are a handful every year, have gone through a dance in the preschool years of trying to find a place for their kiddo. The stress of that is really significant for working reasons, for childcare reasons, for can I just find a place to socialize my kid reasons. And the dream for me is that we build a program that has capacity to, on a rolling basis, absorb a child so that you can call and say, wow, we're really struggling in preschool, don't really know what it is. Thought this Montessori program would be great. And MSAD 51 can say, great, we would love to evaluate your child. We would love to work with you. We have a spot for you. And that we don't box ourselves out of helping kids who present themselves during those years. When the survey seemed predicated on the idea that like we know what everyone needs at 3 and they either have an IEP or they don't, and we're going to administer these services. But for many children's journey, preschool is when we find out what's going on. They may or may not end up with an IEP, and those kids, they do get kicked out of really wonderful programs. They're not a good fit for really wonderful programs. And like we need to be able to welcome them. So let's build capacity for that.
Great, thank you. Now that we broke the ice, anyone? Okay. I think this is just highlighting for me as well that part of the conversation today, we're focused on the school board learning more about what currently exists in our community. And also, I'm really happy to introduce some both community members who work at the state and otherwise who are going to help facilitate this next section, but also that a need for a conversation that also focuses on talking with families in the community as well. And I know there's planned focus groups or another sort of meeting or workshop that has more conversations with families. And I know we'll get into that a little later, but this is an awkward format if you're not at the table. So thank you for coming and listening for everyone who's sitting behind us. So as we move into the next section, I'm really excited to welcome some facilitators that are going to help us. Tara Williams, who resides in our community as the Associate Director of Early Care and Education at the Office of Child and Family Services, and Nicole Medor, who's the Early Childhood Specialist at the Maine DOE. on the early learning team to help work through this workshop agenda. I hope that most people have a copy of the agenda in front of them, but I'm going to hand this over to them and so we can work on introducing all this incredible energy at this table.
We're going to make a slight adjustment to the introductions, given just being sensitive to time and how many of us are here around the table. So let's go with name and affiliation, and we're going to skip the part about sharing kind of what brings you to the work, even though that would have been lovely, but we'll have more conversations over the next hour and a half or so where we'll be getting to know each other. So as Leanne shared, I'm Tara Williams from Maine Department of Health and Human Services, and I'll go this way and we'll go around the table. You can say your name and your role.
None of this?
No, not yet. Just
Okay. I'm Danielle Hunt. I am the director and owner of the Learning Loft Preschool.
I'm Sarah Rose. I am the owner of Rose Garden Preschool and More and a board member.
Jesse Lamar Vincent, and I'm a board member and father of 2 kids in the district.
Amy Story. I'm a preschool teacher at Storytime Learning Center.
I'm Donna Kane. I am also at Storytime Learning Center, but I've done preschool in the town of Cumberland for almost 35 years.
I'm Jamie Kiso. I'm the owner of Storytime Learning Center, and I'm also the owner of Story Smith Pediatric Clinic, which provides occupational, physical, and speech therapy for birth to twinlet.
I'm Jenny Eastman. I'm the owner and director of the Willow School, a preschool here in town.
I'm Katie Wallace. I'm the senior rep on the board.
I'm Caitlin McCarran. I'm the junior rep on the board.
Sean Thurston, school board member, and I have 1 kiddo in the district.
Chris Keegan. I'm the learning strategist at Friends School of Portland that happens to be in Cumberland.
I'm Kelsey Shagnon. I am the director of Main Street Children's Center.
I'm Madison Cropley. I'm the assistant director of Main Street Children's Center.
I'm Scott Poulin. I'm the director of finance, human resources, and operations for the school district.
I'm Lauren Welliver, and I'm a board member, and I have 2 children in the school district.
I'm Leanne Candor, board member, and I have 2 kiddos at the high school.
Kim Vine, board member, mother of 4 kids. My youngest is a senior this year. I am also a parent of a kid with special needs, a sister of someone with special needs, and very interested.
I'm Carla Fancy. I'm the assistant director of instructional support for the district.
I'm Corey Munsey, the current principal of MIW and the future principal of the new pre-K to 1 school.
Julie Olson, Director of Instructional Support, and oversee our pre-K program in district.
Hi, I'm Mari Terbilcock. I'm the Director of Academic Services in the district.
Jeff Porter, Superintendent of MSAD 51.
Annika Hole, school board member and parent of a 6th grader and 9th grader.
Megan Lichter, school board member, 6th grader and 8th grader.
Tim Valenti, school board member. I've got 4 kids, 2 in the district, and at least 2 coming into the preschool. Let's just, fingers crossed, 2 coming in.
I'm Rebecca. I'm the owner, director, and lead teacher of Creekside Hollow here in Cumberland.
I'm Nicole Medor, the early childhood specialist at the Department of Education on the early learning team. I'm not a member of Cumberland or North Yarmouth, but thank you for having us, and I appreciate the invite. And I did just also want to say we were hoping to have a representative from our Office of Special Services and Inclusive Education. They're the team that's largely overseeing the transition of FAPE services for 3 to 5-year-olds. Unfortunately, their team didn't have a member available to join us tonight. So I'm going to do my best to sort of wear both hats as best I can and answer and facilitate any conversations as we are able. But I am prepared to take any questions and forward them on to our team at, we call them Aussie, forward them on to the Aussie team if necessary. So just heads up.
Sorry, before we continue, is Toddle Inn not represented here tonight?
They are not here.
Yeah, I got a message from Toddle Inn with their information answering the questions. They apologized that they were not able to attend, but she shared with me something that she said I could read just about their enrollment and their programming.
Okay, and I was trying to go around. Are we missing anybody else as a representative from our community? I just want to make sure we account for everyone. Who else are we missing?
We're missing Bonnie Keith, who is a family child care.
Okay.
And Darcy is after school only.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I just want to make sure we
Also, I
recognize
reached
everyone.
out to Little Hands in Falmouth, and they could not be here tonight.
Well, in the next part of our agenda, we're going to take a few minutes to hear from those who are directors or owners of the early care and education programs in Cumberland and North Yarmouth that are sitting around the table to be able to share a little bit about your programming, the ages you serve, just kind of like a quick profile so we can get to know not only each other's names, but the programs and services that we have in our community. And that includes the programming at MSAD 51. So is it okay if I turn again?
I feel like Jenny's more, you feel like a firster.
I thought you.
Sure.
So a little bit about Learning Law?
Okay. So I am Danielle Hunt. I own and operate the Learning Loft Preschool. I inherited the Learning Loft Preschool a number of years ago now. My background is I was a former BCBA, which is education uses a lot of lingo. That's a board certified behavior analyst. I was employed by a school district to work with all sorts of behaviors, pre-K through grade 12. Before that, I worked at Murphy Center, and before that, I was a first grade teacher. So I have a number of certifications behind me, and when I took over Learning Loft, that was sort of the direction that we were going in. My why, I know you said not the why, but my why behind why I wanted to take over was because I was seeing a ton of kids, only because people were talking about this. I was seeing kids in elementary, middle, high school who were having behaviors, having hard time. And it's a whole lot harder, as a lot of people have said, to work with kiddos later on. It's a whole lot harder. And so when this opportunity arose, the former owner was leaving. My husband grew up in Cumberland, wanted to be in Cumberland. We said, let's do it. And I'm gonna work with as many pre-K kids as I can work with to help them get on the right foot. And from then on, that has been my mission. Diving into all of the professional development that you have to do for early ed, which I know a lot of people here know that is a whole different ballgame. And so at our preschool, we serve, I have a class of 12 kids. We have 3-year-olds and we have 4-year-olds. They come half days. We've toyed in the past with longer days. There are 4 certified teachers that work with me, all who have also left schools for very similar reasons. There are 3 adults to 12 kids all the time. We are 90% outside. We are play-based. We talk about how we do academic-y things. But if anything's going to fall off the table, it's an academic-y thing, because we are talking about how to be humans and function as humans, how to build relationships, how to be successful, confident, brave, all of those things. We work with preschoolers with IEPs. We've formerly worked with CDS. I see providers here that we've worked with. We are open. We have spaces dedicated for that. We do it all. We go, sorry.
That's great. No, it's okay. Thank you. Good.
I'm Sarah Rose. So Rose Garden is 24 years old, and I'm licensed family child care. I have 8 preschoolers at a time, and then 12 school-age kids who come in the afternoon. So there are lots of mixed age opportunities. The preschool the last couple of years has been half day. I've offered school days and full days as well. Similarly to, as a lot of the moms were saying, have worked with a lot of kids who have struggled to fit into other environments, be it too small, be it too large, and not always had the support of CDS or the availability of CDS. I'm a one-woman show, and I'm really proud to be that. And I'm overwhelmed and so thankful to the providers to be here tonight and to speak up, please, for our kids.
Thank you, Sarah.
I guess it's me that gets to talk. So I went to school at the University of Maine Farmington a long time ago for early childhood special ed. I actually started in elementary education and said, whoa, stop. I want to be more with kids than elementary education, and found my passion. I found the love that I do, and one thing I'm working on is embracing this, but I'm good at what I do. I've worked with kids. At Storytime, we have kids from 6 weeks up until, depending on the year, whether they go through kindergarten or not, and the space that we have available. This year we don't have any kindergartners. Last year I think we had 8. So we're flexible with that. We work with children of all developmental levels. I am a mother of 4. I birthed 3 and we adopted 1 with special needs. So I have my 282 certification, but when I adopted a child that was very involved, I decided I wasn't wanting to work just special ed anymore. So I kind of let that go by, but I have an awful lot to offer with the kids, knowing that kids come first. And I can't remember your name, but you said Jean, at the beginning that the earlier we intervene, the less is so true. You know, you could do 6 months of speech therapy for a child, and they're not going to need 6 years of it in the kindergarten. I mean, in schools. I think that we as a community need to embrace. I was so excited when I was in college because that's when we started talking about public preschool. That was 1998. And we were talking, and I was like, yes, we're gonna finally do that. And I will be honest, I am scared to death with what I read and how we're doing it, because we're talking evidence-based curriculums, and we're talking data-driven, and what's going to happen is all that stuff that got me out of elementary education in the first time, away from working with kids, and losing our kids to numbers. I have spent a lot of time in the last couple of years looking for a evidence-based curriculum. Do you know Maine's Pond Life in February, which most of the programs sell? It's frozen. There's not a lot of Maine pond, so it doesn't fit in. I use the Maine Early Guidelines, which is what is in line with the state, which has spent a numerous amount of time with the state, making it trying to make it a seamless transition into the educational system. But there is a huge divide. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and there's been very few years where I've had somebody from the school contact me and say, what were you doing with this child and what was working? And it's not happening. Would that be great if that was happening, either in our schools or in our community? It's not. So we're wasting time, we're wasting energy, we're trying to reinvent the wheel over and over again. I think public pre-K is a great idea as long as it's done child first and in child's best interests with least restrictive environments.
I think we're going to Willow's, or are you all from the same program?
I would actually like to, if it's okay, I would like to talk about Story Smith Pediatric Clinic and the services versus the private-based services versus the school-based services. So we provide occupational, physical, and speech therapy for kiddos birth to 21. And we contract with school systems currently. And one of the reasons that we contract with school systems is because school systems do not have enough providers. So one of my biggest concerns is the children being able to get the services that they're written for and the consistency of services. If a therapist has an IEP meeting and that's during the child session time, that session gets canceled and that session gets missed. At the clinic, we're able to offer makeup sessions, we're able to offer other times for the family that might work for them. So they are getting their consistency of care, they are getting what's written on their IEP plan. And I know one of the biggest issues or concerns right now is having enough providers, because We don't currently have enough providers for the services that are recommended and rendered in the school system, let alone adding a public pre-K program. So that's one of my biggest concerns, is making sure that our kids are getting their needs met and getting them met consistently.
And you do go into.
Oh, we go into preschool programs, we go into public schools, we go into private schools, and we have clinic-based services. So we go everywhere.
And you do evals.
We do evaluations as well. Yes. Yeah. So that was my little. Yes.
Thank you so much to everybody who shared, and I look forward to hearing more about your centers and what you have to say about them. Like I said, my name's Jenny Eastman. I'm the owner and the director of the Willow School. I am a American Montessori credentialed teacher with over 1,000 hours of contact training. So, and this will be my 19th year in the early childhood realm. And this is my second year owning the Willow School. The Willow School is a Montessori, nature-based, play-based facility that supports children from 15 months to 5 years old. I want to say something kind of bluntly. We, all of us here, all of us providers, have been facilitating and providing services for children who are on IEPs for years. This is now something that we're very accustomed to doing. We are, dare I say, experts at facilitating this for children. However, where the school district could help alleviate some, I would say, of the clog that we experience is getting kids screened and then getting appointments for them. We make the space. We call the people. We make it happen. It is a part of our daily lives. So it's not as if we are reinventing the wheel. What this discussion really should focus on is where do we want our funding to be allocated, and how can we uphold our responsibility to the children and to the people of our community. I am so passionate about making accessible early childhood education thrive here in this town, but not just in Cumberland, but in Cumberland County. None of our centers operate in a silo. When Falmouth opened up their beautiful pre-K programs, we felt it. When Yarmouth opened up their robust pre-K programs, we felt it. You can dig through the census numbers, you can put in percentages of what students migrate to what towns and whatnot, but the bottom line is that we already have 120 preschool seats that are here in our schools, ready to be supportive in any way that we can, because this is what we love to do. And we are really good at cooperating and communicating in positive ways. So I hope that we can come together tonight to create positive, actionable steps that will support everybody in our community. Thanks.
I think next, Friends School? Yeah.
So we have 134 kids who are pre-K through 8. Only 12 of those are pre-K.
You said 12 pre-K?
Excuse me?
You said 12 pre-K?
Only 12. So it's a 3-4 program, full days, except that we often have a few who need a shortened day and need special services, and you have to feel for those parents who are really struggling to find those services, dependent on CDS and private entities, and definitely hardship. I taught special ed in Portland for 20-something years, in elementary school and saw there, of course, the lack of preschool and what kids suffer from that. So all I can say is thank you for trying to fill the hole there, because I have very resourceful families with resources and they're struggling. And so all of those kids are struggling.
Hi again. I'm Kelsey from Main Street Children's Center. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. I'm quite intimidated by all of the experience in this room. This is my first year in this role. And so I'm here to learn, but also support. So we are a developmental preschool, and we serve about 40 children ages 3 to 5 in the community. And we do currently partner with MSAD 51. There's a bus that comes to our school in the around 11:30, and then again at 12. And then we get aftercare. So it's a whole mess of configuration, and we love it. It's chaos, but we do it just to meet the needs of families in the community, and that's why we do what we do, I think.
Yeah, we have a lot of kids who receive services both at MIW and who receive them at our facility, or who go to private facilities. So we work really closely with CDS and with the district to get everyone everything they need.
MSAD 51, yeah.
Yep. So we are in our 7th year of our pre-K program. We have 2 half-day programs, and we serve only 4-year-olds, so we have 32 students. It's a 4-day-a-week program. We are an inclusive classroom. We have up to 50% of students on IEPs. Our students receive, if they have IEPs, they receive specially designed instruction by a certified special educator, OT, PT, speech, educational technician support as needed. They'll have a BCBA, which is a board certified behavior analyst, social work. We have our doctoral level school psychologist doing the evaluations, nursing support, teacher of the deaf. All of those staff are, of course, certified. They need to be through the Department of Education. We do, as mentioned, provide transportation to and from either homes or preschools in the community as needed. We don't go outside the community town lines to go to any other preschools or homes outside of town lines, but we do provide transportation to any preschools or homes within the community of Cumberland and North Yarmouth. We do use research-based curriculums that are approved by the DOE and need to do that as part of our curriculum. We have our own preschool playground with developmentally appropriate equipment that we have purchased, and it's only used by our preschool students. We provide MTSLs, which is multi-tiered systems of support, or for those of us that are sort of not up on the most lingo, RTI, response intervention supports for students. If there are students that are not on IEPs but are needing a little extra boost for something, and that is done by our developmental specialist, who is a certified OT by trade, and our literacy and math specialists, who are part of our MIW staff. And we certainly take students of all disabilities, all disability levels, and often we are the provider that gets the students who are kicked out of all of the other preschools. Those are the students that we get, and those are actually the students that we ask for, because it makes our transition to kindergarten a lot easier, and it provides, like Gene said earlier in his public speaking, the earlier we can intervene with these students, the more progress that we can make. So that is our program at this time. I keep asking for more in terms of a full day, particularly for our more involved students. We don't need a full day for any of our younger students. We don't need a full day for our students that are less involved. But for some of the parents who spoke, there are some students that could require a longer, more robust day to fit all of their therapies in.
Thank you. I think we have one more person to share. Yes, thank you.
I'm Rebecca at Creekside Hollow. I'm a credentialed teacher, I'm a Waldorf teacher, I've studied Reggio Emilia, and now I'm very much learning the forest school pedagogy and deep nature connection. I have 3 to 6 year olds right now. We are almost all outside. We do come in a little bit in the winter because we are outside all day. And it is Maine. But we're play-based, but that doesn't mean we don't have an amazing amount of structure within play. I think sometimes people, when they hear play-based, means that we just play all day. We play, we have circle time. Our circle times are full body movements. We cross the midline. We do fine motor skills, large motor skills. We do log rolls, we crawl, and then we do our learning. So they get into their bodies before we actually sit them down to listen to a book. We do story time, circle times. And I really feel, I'm like every other early childhood educator here, I'm passionate about it. They are our future, and we need to help the future. And so I've really realized that the more the children are connected to nature, the calmer their nervous systems are, and the more, if they feel safe and connected to the earth or to the elements, to each other, then they're ready to learn. So that's what we do at Creekside. My son is now 30, but he was a special needs child, and so our mantra is every child is different and every child is beautiful. And yeah, that child gets to sit outside of story time and roll around because he's different. Like that's really like that helps him, and they're like, wow, that's helping him. And so I have found that having occupational therapists and speech therapists come into my program and observe who I have and who the current students are, that's been incredibly helpful to me, because then they can tell me what to incorporate into my circle times or my outside times. It's heartbreaking because it's only me and I have an assistant. When I know I need a child that should have a one-on-one helper, I can't have that child in my program, and that's heartbreaking to me, because in all these different ways they're doing so well, but when they run, and I'm a forest program with a creek, right? You know, and so I need someone else there. And so if I could get those helpers to come to my program, it would be amazing. My summer camps, you know, the children they're up to 9 years old, and the parents pick up and they're like, what have you done? My child has never been this like grounded when they come home. And it's because we're outside and we're in the elements, and they're in their bodies. They're getting in their bodies before they do their academics. You know, they're tired. They've worked out everything, and now they're ready to do their best. And it's amazing, you know, now that we're coming inside for the first hour, I make them do a journey, which is rolling across the floor, crawling under a tunnel, going on a balance beam, and then they're grounded, and then they're ready to do their work. So I wish I could have more people come into my program and give me tips on what they see these children need, and I could incorporate it into my program.
I wish we could start our board meetings like that.
Adjournment.
I have information from Toddle-In. Is that okay if I share that? So this is from Daniel Pickering, who's the Program Resource Director at Toddle-In Childcare. She shares, Toddle-In is a long-standing early childhood program that has been serving the Cumberland community since 2001. Our Cumberland location is licensed for a capacity of 200 children, ages 6 weeks through 12 years, including a pre-K program with a capacity of 20 children. Our pre-K classroom is led by Heather Morse, who holds a bachelor's degree in education, is licensed through the state of Maine to teach pre-K through grade 3. Heather has been teaching for almost 17 years, proud of the quality. Our center operates from 7:15 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., a schedule that has been proven highly supportive of working families in the community and one that often complements the needs of today's workforce. We currently have approximately 16 children ages 3 to 5 who have IEPs or who are in the process of CDS referrals and evaluations. Supporting children with diverse learning needs is a significant part of our daily work. We collaborate closely with families and CDS service providers to help parents navigate the process of seeking supports to help children succeed in their learning environment. She has some other notes that I can share at another time, but I did have a question that had come up earlier just about how many students tend to be from MSAD 51 versus outside of her community. So I had just asked her that, and she said their current pre-K classroom of 21 children, 20 live in the MSAD 51 district. Our younger classrooms have 30, and 16 of those live in the district. So they see typically 70% are in school in the community that their children will go to school is the percentage they see across Toddleton.
Well, the expertise in this room is really amazing, and I really feel humbled by that. And then I wanted to say, too, that it is true that when it comes to public pre-K education, meaning education for 4-year-olds in public schools, there are really specific requirements and expectations around that. However, there's also a lot of room for interpretation. So while there is a requirement to implement an evidence-based program, we know that play is evidence-based. And by all means, we would support a play-based curriculum in a public school. We actually want that. We would argue that that is far more developmentally appropriate for a 4-year-old than a worksheet and a desk. So I just want to, I know that sometimes when we talk about 4-year-olds in a public school space, it can often paint a picture of what education looks like for a 4th grader, or a 5th grader, et cetera, right? And I just want to be very clear in saying that's not at all what my early learning team promotes or supports. We want to support our public schools pre-K through grade 2 into 3 even, implementing high quality, developmentally appropriate, evidence-based programming. And in the pre-K 2 space, that is by all means play-based. So just for the record, I just wanted to make sure. We do have lots of supports on our website, and our team can offer as well. That also includes nature-based. I'm pointing to you because you're next to me. Yeah. I'm going to do that all night, and so I'm sorry. That also supports outdoor nature-based learning and Wabanaki studies as well. So lots of supports that the DOE can provide. I do have a slides that I'm going to read from. I don't know, Leanne, if you received it, if it's something.
You didn't can you attach it?
I was sure I did.
I do that all the time.
That old email without the actual attachment.
Yeah. And then Jeff, I'm going to send it to you.
someone.
I don't have an Apple, if you can just put them up.
Oh, is that El Kendura?
Yes.
She did.
Oh, I got an email. I didn't see an attachment.
Oh,
It looks like it's attached.
I don't know why I
on
didn't
her.
send fully.
Okay, do you
Do you want me to try again?
Or Jay Porter, if you want to.
Or do what?
Hook it up.
Or
send to Jeff Porter.
Yeah.
Oh.
Or try. For some reason, I'm not getting the attachment, but.
Is it just Jay Porter?
MSAD51.org.
Oh,
yeah. See if it comes through for you.
All of that to say, they're not that exciting of slides. I am just going to read from them. There is important information on them that I want to be really clear in presenting.
And would we be able to share and post these later as well? Because I'm assuming, depending on where you're sitting, you may or may not be able to see the slides.
Yeah, there's actually several versions of this slideshow on the DOE website through the Office of Special Services and Inclusive Education. So this information is all publicly available. It's fine to post or share. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's saying, so now I'm getting a warning saying it's too big to share in an email.
Oh.
Maybe you should go. We can put can we connect Hardwire? we started there and we're like, oh,
I
we
know,
don't need
that's
hard
honestly-
wires. And
Do you want to start?
Sure. So the other caveat too is that these slides were created to support a meeting very much like this in another community. I had mentioned our colleagues at the Office of Special Services and Inclusive Education, OSSI, developed these slides and shared these slides. So that's what I meant when I said I'm going to do my best to sort of wear that hat and answer any questions that may come of it. I believe what brings many of us here today is sort of the why of special education, more specifically the FAPE transition. FAPE is the free and appropriate public education requirement for students with IEPs or special education. Get here.
Do you have one of those computers? Oh,
I'm fine. I didn't.
Do you have one of those
Just
computers that just dies if you unplug?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's a
State government.
that's a pretty fun little screensaver.
That's not mine. I'll just break the awkward silence and say I had said to Tara in preparation for today, I really don't want this to be like a presentation. So anyway, here we are presenting, which is totally fine. So the current sort of atmosphere of students with special education needs in the state of Maine is through what I think many of us are familiar with, CDS, Child Development Services. CDS is the what's the word I'm looking for? Workforce behind special education for 0 to 5-year-olds. And we break that up into two sections, 0 to 3-year-olds, which we refer to as Part C, or a crib perhaps, and 3 to 5-year-olds, which we refer to as Part B, like in a bed. So we sort of remember it that way, and that refers to the federal IDEA law, section 619, on the provision of special education services for children 0 to 5. So 2 years ago, our state legislature was successful in passing a bill to move the provision of special education services for 3 to 5-year-olds out of CDS and into our local school administrative units. That is the way, I believe, 48 other states do it. Maine is very unique in the way we've provided special education for 0 to 5-year-olds. We've done it this way for 40 plus years, and the legislature has brought this up in the past, and it has what we refer to as died at the table and hasn't moved forward. Well, this time it has. So by July 1, 2028, the expectation is that all school administrative units in the state of Maine will have adopted the provision of special ed services for 3 to 5-year-olds. So between now and then, the OSSI team that I referenced earlier is doing what we call cohorts. So currently this school year, we have cohort 2 happening, and that is just made up of SAUs who have volunteered to start now. They wanted to get the ball rolling in their communities, better understand the process, have time before it's required of them, and have access to supports, funding, TAs, technical assistance, or professional development. And so we've had, and it's been great for us, I will say too, because it's brought up lots of things to work through that we didn't realize were going to be things that we needed to work through, right? There's been lots of conversations and meetings in PD with folks in cohort 1 and cohort 2 to better understand the whole process. So we've learned a lot from those schools, and I'm optimistic in thinking they've learned a lot from us as well. No, that's okay. Perhaps. It's all good.
Is it on the website? Is it the slides that are on the website that we could pull up on somebody else's computer?
potentially, I would have to look to see what the actual address is, where they live, because they were just sent to me.
Right. I'm just wondering if Tara says it's on the website. I mean, we could pull it up on somebody else's computer that's apt to connect easier.
Yeah, I mean, you're welcome to check. I don't know for sure if they're the exact slides or not.
They may not be the exact presentation because we have multiple versions of them because we've done all these different webinars and presentations, but I can check.
The other thing I will add too is, so our early learning team at the department, we oversee public pre-K general education. So the provision of services or public pre-K for students who are 4 years old by October 15th. If and when anything special education related comes into that realm, then we pull in our colleagues at OSSI and or CDS, depending on the community and the resources needed. So when we talk a little bit more about this, you'll hear me say often about partnering, and it can mean different things depending on the context of which we're referring to it as. So when we're talking about MSAD 51 public pre-K classrooms, and if you're looking to expand but you don't have the space capacity, the staff capacity, what have you, and you want to partner with a community provider to provide public pre-K education for general education students, that's one way of partnering. When we talk about MSAD 51 taking over special education services for 3 to 5 year olds and having a child in your community with an IEP who needs a service provided, then you might partner with a community provider so that that service can be delivered. That's a different form of a partner. Both great, both very successful across the state. But when we are continuing the conversation, I just want to be clear that there's different ways to partner. The funding for each are different, and the way it flows to the school, to the partner, et cetera, varies depending on the definition. No, that's okay. I can just talk.
You're doing great.
You're doing great. Yeah.
I'm way off course, I will say. The slides will rein me back
Can
in.
you put it, is it on a Google Drive you can share versus email?
I can do it like through not Google. The state doesn't use Google, so I know often that's what schools use. I don't know what you use.
I mean, you're doing great otherwise.
Slides later. Keep talking.
Keep talking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where is the, so you can have your notes basically?
Oh, that PowerPoint app there. Yeah. Perfect. And that first one. Yep. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. You want to stay here?
Our folks, where would you like me to?
You're doing great right here.
That works then. Thank you. Okay, so I pretty much covered that. The legislation. Let's see. I think we covered that. I think the other thing I'll say before I just pause for clarity or questions is that the current model of CDS that exists as is now is not necessarily going away, it's just changing with the time as well. So CDS is going to remain the authoritative realm for all students 0 to 3, Part C. That's not changing in any way. It's really just shifting for the 3 to 5 year olds. So CDS has 9 sites throughout the state. They align with our superintendent regions. And they're going to remain a hub for public schools to access if they need support for therapists, for evaluations, for case management purposes, whatever it is. They're going to remain intact. So you'll still be able to, if needed, contact folks at CDS Reach for support in your special education oversight for students. So a community like you all, you have 2 public pre-K classrooms that serve up to 32 students. And in your kindergarten, you've got 150 to 180 students. So there's a gap. Those 100-ish 4-year-olds are somewhere in your community. They're being cared for and educated by many of you in this room. We heard that. Some families may choose to keep their children home if they're able to do that. And that's totally appropriate as well. That's their choice. So we want to make sure that when we think about your community and your students and your families, what are we talking about, right? Because CDS Reach covers a much more widespread space of this part of the state. RSU, or I keep saying that, MSAD 51 has a much smaller chunk of that puzzle. So currently this school year, CDS data shows that there's approximately 65 3- and 4-year-olds with an IEP or in the child find process. So that gives you sort of a ballpark to better understand your community and its needs as it relates to special education and IEP services. Looking ahead to next year, if you were to take this on in cohort 3, there's already about 35 children anticipated. That number is obviously going to change day to day, let alone between now and then. So that kind of gives you a better idea of your data, of what exists in your community now and what you need to sort of be prepared for. So all that's really changing is that instead of CDS taking referrals and being the responsible party for those services, it's going to move to the district. A really common misunderstanding is that now schools need to physically house those children, and that's just not true. We don't want the children to leave their familiar spaces and settings if they don't have to. So that's when I talk about students with IEPs and the district sort of partnering, that's what I mean when I say, if a student is at, I don't have my notes, but Story Time, I think that was a name I remembered hearing, then we want them to stay there if it's possible. If it means that you have staff and can support staff going in to provide whatever services on that IEP. If it means that the student has a space in the public school classroom and that's where the family and the IEP team determine is their appropriate setting, then that's what we should work to do. So it's not to say that the SAU now has to take in all of these children. In fact, it's quite the opposite. We want children, we want to support them staying where the family wants them, assuming that it's the IEP team's decision that that's the appropriate setting for their services and for their education. So I'm going to pause because that was a lot just sort of thrown out. What is MSAD 51 specifically wanting to know? What are conversations that you're wanting to have that I can support in facilitating? What's happening? Yeah.
So I'm also on the finance committee, and so we talked about some of the different models, and there's a lot of confusion, I think, about how the money flows for both programs. So if you, at just a high level, could help us understand, there's also lots of people in the community who don't want us to spend any money on anything we don't need to. So understanding how do we get reimbursed for IEP services, like could we get reimbursed to expand public pre-K partnering with folks and not raise people's taxes, or is it split? Just a broad understanding of, because otherwise, like, yeah, we want the best for all of our kids, but like a lot of people don't want us to spend any money on anything. So just understanding at a high level, like, how are you guys giving us money to do more?
Perfect.
Like, would be just incredible.
Perfect. So when we're talking specifically about students with IEPs, once MSAD 51 takes on that responsibility for 3 to 5-year-olds, the district will receive 100% state funding for the provision of that child's education. It will not affect local costs whatsoever. So how that works, and that also includes your the subsidy portion of that calculation. So how that works is the special education funding comes quarterly. So there's a July 1, October 1, January 1, and April 1 count. So the district would say, okay, it's July 1. This is how many children we have with active IEPs. Our finance team will say, fantastic. Here is 100% of the funding that you need to provide high quality care and education for that child, those children. So you're going to get that money up front. It is not a reimbursement model. It is not a delayed, you had that last quarter, now you're getting paid later for that last quarter, right? It's current and it's active and it's within that time frame. So that's July 1. October 1, we're going to say, okay, time for your counts. How many children in MSAD 51 have an IEP? You're going to say X amount of children, and we're going to say, great, here is the 100% of the appropriate funding for those children. And it may be more than July 1, if you have more students. It might be less if you have less students come October. It will fluctuate.
And when you say within MSAD 51, do you mean children served who live in our district and are served
Correct.
in any of these places or within
Correct.
our classrooms, no matter where they're served?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
What is what's the number? What is appropriate funding based on?
I would refer to your special education. I personally don't know that. We could get that for you for sure, our finance team, and or I don't know if your special education director might have a better understanding of those costs for your district, but whatever it is for MSAD 51, then that's it.
So that number is determined by the district.
And the needs of this children yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Each of our providers bill a certain amount in the state system. It's called SYNC, the child system that we bill for. So like occupational therapy gets a certain bill amount, speech therapies gets a certain bill amount, psychologists get a certain bill amount, our case managers get a certain bill amount, administration gets a certain bill amount. That's what we bill. So that's why she can't give you one figure, because it's actually the providers that bill, not the student that you bill.
Right.
And so the providers get the money, like the providers each bill. Like we're currently actually we're already 100% covered in our current program. I think you read that in your board packet, but just to say that publicly, Scott should actually be the one speaking money, not me, because I'll get myself in trouble. But we're like, our program already is 100% covered. The department reimburses, it's a reimbursement model now, but reimburses, short of our educational technician, which is upfront, reimburses 100% of our current services that are IEP ordered for students.
And it's really individualized for the student. One child might have an hour of speech required a day, 5 times a week. Another child might have more intense services required, which would then cost more money to support that child's education. Therefore, the amount for that child would be more than another. So it's really individualized and dependent on the needs. Yeah.
So I think you just answered it, but I'm
sure.
So it's paying just for the services. So like if they have their speech services, it's paying just for that services, and then the parents are required to still pay the rest of the educational piece of that.
Sort of. So the best that I can describe it, and school folks will understand this. So your public pre-K students who attend MIW now, you get a state subsidy from the Department of Education to support that child's education. The cost of what it takes to educate a typically developing child is included in that special education cost. So if Jonathan attends MIW and has an IEP, then the school will receive funding for their general education and their special education costs. That's part of the 100% cost. If all that's true, but Jonathan attends story time, then the school will receive all of that same funding, and then it would likely somehow be dispersed or reimbursed to you or to the parents, so that the parent can access a free and appropriate education, but at your location. So that too kind of varies, because sometimes a parent will say, my child needs speech and language therapy, but I don't want them in a setting all day. I don't want them they're past, whatever the case may be. And so in that scenario, it would be more individualized, because the parent may or may not be accessing the same amount of time that another child in the district is. So there's more to work out for that. That's what I meant in these cohort 1 and 2 schools that we're already working with have really helped us better understand the needs and how this looks in the incredibly diverse communities that we have throughout the state. But so if like at MIW, if you have 32 students, 2 of which have an IEP, those 2 students would be removed from your EPS funding, because you wouldn't get EPS funding for them. It would be included in their special ed in that special ed funding. That's probably more than we need to discuss right now.
I think those are the exact points that we're going to...
We need that.
You just
we need to understand.
Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of folks are looking at the models based on like what's going to cost us more, what's going to cost us less,
right?
Versus that's a different discussion than what's best for the child, what's best for So I think
understanding
that there's reimbursement coming, and if it comes to the school, it could pass through to a provider.
Yes.
And Nicole, when you were talking too about, just to clarify, like if, say, the example you gave with story time, it may be that the decision is the child's placed there as the general ed placement, not that story time is agreeing to provide all of the special ed, but that the school is going to provide that and send those in, right?
Yes.
So that can also determine how the money flows, because you don't have to agree as a community-based organization that you're able on your own to provide all special education services. You can say, I'm the general ed placement, and then the school could work on providing the services on site at your program.
Leanne, could I talk a little bit to the finances? Do you mind?
Oh, no.
Okay,
please.
I did a memo to the board package that everybody should take a look at, and we currently have, as Julie had mentioned earlier, we have 32 students who attend the pre-K program. We get over $288,000 in pre-K subsidy. It's about a little over $9,000 per student. Okay, so we receive that. Our pre-K program budget is $208,000. So we're receiving additional money above and beyond what our actual budget is for our pre-K program. About 90% of transportation costs are reimbursed through the subsidy formula. And then also, then you have the special education services that are delivered. You know, we may have an OT who provides a half an hour service twice a week into the program. Well, we receive, you know, about $51 per service that's provided, depending on what each service is. So right now, in last fiscal year, we received close to $78,000 in CDS reimbursements. So the program has not cost the district money in order to provide it. So I think that's important to know. We also receive a little over $16,000 in local entitlement funds which are federal funds that are used for pre-K. So with all of those in place, I can honestly say by looking at all of this that the pre-K program, including the special education costs, is not making a cost to the district. It's actually offset by the different revenues that we receive. And one of the things that's done very well here is that our service providers put in, our OTs, our PTs, put in their time for the billings, and then it goes through special education. And Julie and her office have ensured that all of those services are being billed for. So it's provided an excellent revenue source. And so there's a lot of great work that's been done in that area to provide subsidies on that. So I think I just wanted to say that out loud to people so that you had that and you understood that. So.
Can I ask a clarifying question? One of the things you mentioned about the formula around the general education fund. So are you saying that when we need to expand at least the services to 3-year-olds, would additional general ed dollars come with that as well?
For a 3-year-old with an IEP?
Yes.
Yes.
And so how does that currently work if they're being served in a child care setting now? Do they get general ed dollars now? Like, does that offset then what the parents pay?
CDS navigates that with the child care, forms an MOU or a contract with the child care, and does reimburse for a certain number of hours that really is for the child's general ed and special ed.
Right, that's the intent, yes.
Okay, so that hasn't.
We don't experience
But
that.
they don't.
We don't experience
Well,
that.
they don't.
No,
in theory, intent.
Actuality.
Okay, I retract. I will take that back.
They don't.
No, yeah.
And they would hard stop you. If you went that up in an IEP meeting with CDS, they would be like, nope, we don't do that. You don't do that.
As of a meeting with the DOE and OSSI today, 11 to 12, I mean, the intent is always that they're continuing to work with the district attorney on what the general ed hours look like, because it hasn't happened under the current law for 3- and 4-year-olds, and they're trying to figure out what the general ed hours would look like for FAPE, and if that's reimbursed, and what that looks like, and what case law looks like around the nation, because it hasn't been happening.
And
so
I don't want to take
really
us on a
about that.
whole CDS thing,
Right,
so we'll
so
just
we've gotta
pause
be
there and
careful
go
about
back
that,
to
yeah.
Nicole.
Scott, can I ask a clarifying question just to what you had mentioned about the finance? Because you had said that the pre-K is costing us nothing as a district.
It's offset by, the regular ed pre-K is offset by $288,000
that
in
we're
subsidy.
receiving from special ed. So
No, through our subsidy formula for general ed for the pre-K program.
Right, as
The
well as
the special ed funds come from the billings for CDS, and then there's all, and that was, I think I mentioned, it was a little over, well, close to $78,000. So just to give you an example, there's 100% of an educational technician, which is funded by CDS. We bill for that, okay, of an educational technician. There's services that are provided by a special ed teacher, an occupational therapist, physical therapist, speech therapist. All of those are invoiced. And through a CDS, it's called an IEP billing service. And so we receive funds from the state for those particular billing hours. So take an example of an OT, okay, an occupational therapist who may be full-time in the district. A portion of that OT's salary is going to pre-K, but we're getting that back because it's billable. It's actually being billed back, and then we're receiving more than probably the cost of the hourly rate of that OT. So we're getting, $51 or other fees, depending on what the service is.
But that's
it's related
special
to
ed.
that.
So I'm trying to.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do is
Yep.
differentiate in my brain. Like
Yep.
that's special ed stuff. That is reimbursed. I assume the intent of the state is to reimburse for the cost of that student.
Right.
So that money should go out for that student, right?
We're
Like-
also getting a subsidy through the
That's right.
EPS model for our regular ed students.
So there is a subsidy for regular ed students
Correct.
that's
One
coming
expect.
from the
Public pre-K.
state.
So let me clarify it again.
Yeah, that's
okay?
what I was trying to
Let's start again at the
differentiate.
beginning,
We're
okay?
all trying to.
Because it
Okay,
sounded
so-
like we're getting more money for special ed and it makes up for all the regular ed. It sounded
Let me-
like that, and I
let me
just
start
wanted
again,
to clarify.
Okay? So, regular education, pre-K, okay? Take special ed, set it over here as a second part, okay? Our pre-K program gets $288,000 through our EPS formula, which is a whole formula which counts all students in the district and what subsidy we get for our total subsidy amount. Related directly to pre-K is $288,000. No special ed cost affiliated with that, just total pre-K cost. Our budget for pre-K, the 32 students, okay, our budget with the services we provide, no special ed services, is about $208,000. So we are receiving more subsidy than we're expending in our pre-K program for regular ed, okay?
Just through the EPS model.
Through the EPS model. So now take that, set it aside for a moment, okay? You now have the special education services that are provided for IEPs, student IEPs, all right? That is billed through a CDS billing format in which PT services, OT services, all of those are billed by our staff who provide those services. And we get that money back to us. I think now it's like every 2 weeks, something like that. It's like about every 2 weeks. We get that money reimbursed to us, which is paying for those services above and beyond for the special needs. Now what's ironic is if you have an OT who's full-time and that OT is only working in pre-K an hour a week, well, that really isn't a cost to the district. You're actually getting money because the OT is going to be full-time anyway. And you get the whole rest of the benefit across the district of having that OT providing services in the rest of the district. So, so only a portion, a really small portion of that person's labor time in a given week is spent on pre-K for OT services, and we're getting money for that. So.
Have you run these numbers in a cost projection for the possible enrollment that could be in the new school?
Absolutely not, because I have no idea what the student population will look like at that point in time.
So in theory, there would be
Or
like
what the services would be.
So that is what is part of the reason there's a working committee and that we're having this workshop and having community conversations is because the board will need to decide later this year.
So we don't have those numbers yet.
Well, because there's nothing that's been voted on beyond the 32 that we're currently
Yeah, well, we
serving.
also don't know what are the identifications, what's the population of the students look like who might be attending that program, and what services we might need to provide.
What we do know is we'll have more space, which we did not
Which is
have.
basically what I'm saying theoretically.
Yeah.
It's just like a cost projection,
Yep.
an idea. And if on the building blueprints, it says that there will be 4 rooms that are dedicated to pre-K. And each room for the state says that you want to have a 1-to-8 ratio.
Right.
So you can do math.
I'm not sure what the state's doing in the future. The only thing I can tell you is what we're doing right now and what we're receiving. So I'm not going to predict the future. Okay. I do not have that crystal ball.
Jenny, I'll add to that. As finance chair, we are, as Jesse was saying, we are trying to take that approach. Like, we have to be the heavies and say, okay, set aside what, philosophically, socially, we might want for our kids. Let's really look at the costs. And there are, believe it or not, so many things that are still up in the air, because as a board member, I want to be able to compare. I do want to have cost comparison, right? So that at least we can say, if we go with the community model, if we go with services on site but not the classroom on site, I mean, these different options, what is that going to look like? And as of right now, we just don't have enough information from the state to fully embrace that. There is question. You said 100% reimbursed of the appropriate cost. Could you, if you're able to, or could your finance team get back to us, because there actually is some discrepancy? Are benefits covered? Are the payroll taxes covered? Are the utilities that are in the classroom, like all these things that we have to think about, the additional costs, what actually will be.
So a child with an IEP, using Mr. Poulin's math, for about $9,000 per student, you'd get $9,000 plus what is necessary to provide the special education for that student. Right. So if that's an individual, part of an individual, et cetera, all of those things would be included in the cost for that child.
And then if we were to do the off-site model where providers travel, then we're reimbursing mileage. Correct. And we're also, their drive time is
part of their
work time. Yeah. Correct. So that time is compensated. Correct. So trying to figure out, like, okay, how many.
That's an appropriate cost to serve that child.
Right.
They're passed through to the provider, right? So if we have 30 special ed seats in the school now, we've got 60 kids who are going to have IEPs, and we're going to have to serve those 60. So unless we double our program here, or we use community providers. If we use community providers, in addition to if we sent staff to provide the services, is there also a pass-through to basically say, for $9,000, can we reserve a spot for a child with an IEP in your program, and does that money pass through to the provider, or do we only get that money if we serve them in the school?
We can't do that.
No, it's not. It's not that it's only served in the school. It's that what that child's receiving for their general education. If they're at story time only for speech and language services for that 1 hour a day, 5 days, whatever it is, then that's what will be reimbursed. Okay. If that child's IEP says they need an hour of speech every day and they also need to have access to 3 hours a day of general education, then that general education can come at no cost to the parent, which then means Ms. Story's not getting paid for those 3 hours of that child's general education. And then that's where the district might subsidize for Ms. Story's general ed time.
But we're not getting that money through EPS or...
You'd get it through the 100% IEP reimbursement. Yes, because that's part of their general education
so whatever's
cost.
In the IEP is reimbursed, and we could contract with providers.
If the IEP states they need a general education.
All right, so whatever's in the IEP is
it's
like...
the IEP,
How
correct.
often, so you're saying there's IEPs, I know nothing about this,
correct.
For 3 and 4-year-olds that could only have a 1 hour of service and no general ed, like how often is general ed included?
Always, I would say. There's some level of general education requirement on every IEP, unless the child's needs are so severe that the least restrictive environment is a special purpose.
That's not true right now. That's what they're working towards. That's what they understand the law to be, and they're trying to work towards.
I think right now it's like 9 hours a week or something.
They're working towards 6 hours for 3-year-olds and 10 hours for 4-year-olds, and that is the model that they're trying to work towards, and they're trying to find case law to support that. Because the field is wondering how that is individual to name that every 3-year-old that's what they get, and every 4-year-old that's what they get.
And that doesn't feel
very, that doesn't feel very individualized. If you have an articulation disorder versus significant Down syndrome, people are wondering how that's individualized to just name those hours. And so the Aussie team is trying to sort of work through language to support individual IEP teams to come up with individual determinations around general ed time. Right now, and I think all the parents are shaking their head agreeing with me, there is absolutely no general ed time ordered. The service grids on IEPs only order special education services at this time. And that is something that the Aussie team was like, yikes, when they figured out that that was happening. They want to ensure that general ed time is ordered in this new model so that general education is not left out for our special education students as we move forward in this model. And we're all awaiting updated FAPE guidance around that so that it's ordered correctly and therefore billed correctly and therefore reimbursed correctly. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
And that was literally like today's version, but that could have changed since noon today.
Yeah, sure.
That's why it's so difficult to predict and anticipate what this is all going to cost us, because we don't know that yet. So
I know we have a couple other questions coming also. I've just heard a couple of comments about if we go with the community-based model or the school model, and both the early learning team, the special services, Aussie, and our office who work with childcare are working with different communities and schools on the different ways to work together and partner. So just also want to offer, it's not a, you either do school or you either do community-based. There's all these hybrid versions of the number of classrooms in a school versus the number of kids or classrooms that are in the community. There's many different ways, and Nicole has done work for years on the specific public pre-K partnership model and how that can look different across the state in all different communities. So we can offer also support in terms of both understanding not only the special education kind of transition you're navigating, but also the public pre-K itself and how that works together as well. There was,
I just wanted to say, I know that there was a statement made that outside providers are reimbursed for their mileage and their time. For 3 to 5 year olds, we are not reimbursed for our time. So if we are traveling to a program, we are not reimbursed currently. So that is something that is not happening through CDS.
So I hear a lot of funding that's not being doled out right now, and obviously we have a limited budget at the state level too, so I didn't know if there was any talk at all of a protected non-lapsing account, or if this is going to be derived from the general account, or if anything was out there.
Where's the money coming from?
Right. And is it protected, or are we going to do the same thing we always do and cost share eventually, and then 50% of this money's coming from taxpayers in the town? So I don't know if anything was at the legislator or anything that might have been
Get
passed.
back to you.
Yeah.
I would just thank you for all the money you've given us this far.
Made a difference for us.
I don't know if I'm allowed to speak. I work in a district where I'm servicing pre-K kids, and we're doing
Oh,
this.
please.
I'm a public, I'm not sure I'm allowed to talk.
We have one more question.
I just had one clarifying question, but I'd love to hear, and it might be for Julie. Only because I know, like, we're talking about billing services, speech, OT, PT, all of that. What about those kiddos that we talk about that have significant needs with a one-on-one, and that is not a billed service, that is a...
It is a billed service.
It is a billed
It
service.
is
Actually,
billed.
yeah.
We can bill for ed techs, BHPs. We bill for our valuations.
So that can lump in.
Yeah, we bill for, and the ed tech is actually salary and benefits. So those are billed for, and that can be either like 1-on-1, 2-on-1, 3-on-1. It depends on how it's ordered in the IEP, and we work with the department on that ahead of time. And that is actually, it doesn't probably matter the details how we do that, but that's different than like a half an hour chunk or an hour chunk through the sync system. It's actually done on a monthly basis because it's an ordered service all day long for students.
That was one of the pieces that I mentioned earlier about the ed tech being 100% reimbursed.
Okay, thank you.
CDS billing. So.
And that's special education, but then we also do have regular ed tech in the pre-K program that is also through the IPS models supported, because we're a 2 to 16 ratio to meet.
Behind. There's two. There's two parents.
Two people behind you.
Both of them.
Are we allowed to talk?
That's fine. I follow rules.
I just want to make sure everyone around the table has their questions answered first.
I just want to make sure that everybody's aware we're not just talking about 4-year-olds, we're also talking about 3-year-olds.
Correct.
So it's not just a matter of 65 students. That's just 65 4-year-olds, I'm
Nope,
assuming?
that includes 3s.
And there's also a difference between 3 and 4 in terms of with 3-year-olds, we're just talking about children with IEPs, whereas with 4-year-olds, it could be a broader conversation in terms of if you have questions for us, particularly having Nicole here who's done so much work around public pre-K, because 4-year-olds are often served in public schools in SAUs and in community-based programs for both public pre-K in general, as well as those with IEPs.
And the dollars can follow the kiddo into.
Want to speak about?
So for 4-year-olds, I mean, that's what I'm interested
Do
in.
you want to speak a little bit about the public pre-K 4-year-olds?
Is that where you're
Yeah, so yes, how
Is there money?
Yes.
I mean, general education children for your pre-K through 12th grade, like Mr. Poulin was saying, receives funding through what we call the Essential Programs and Services, the EPS formula, which is a statewide formula where the state provides 55% of the costs and the local community provides the 45% match, what have you. So 4-year-olds who are 4 by October 15th of the school year and access your public pre-K programs, the school will get the EPS funding for that general education piece. So that might be in the public school classroom at MIW, or many schools, districts across the state, I mentioned earlier, formally partner with community providers. So whether it's a licensed provider like we have here in the room, or a Head Start, or a YMCA, or a Boys and Girls Club, what have you. And basically in those scenarios, the children are physically at that community provider setting. Sometimes there's a classroom in the school, but that's another conversation. Receiving their public preschool education at no cost to the family, because public education comes at no cost. And the school district gets the EPS funding for that child. And through an MOU agreement with the provider, that money is then shared with the provider for the general education costs. We are not talking about children with IEPs. We're talking about public pre-K education. And that looks different everywhere because no two communities are the same across the state. And it really needs to match and fit what is needed for your particular community. So sometimes districts like, I won't name names. Sometimes districts will say,
name them.
Okay, we get $9,000 per student through the EPS formula. Storytime, sorry, you're in my line of sight. Storytime has 8 children in our public pre-K MOU agreement. Therefore, we're going to give her that 9 times 8, right? 9,000 times 8 cost. Or it might say, a district might say, we'll reimburse you $5,000 per student for the provision of this general education, or whatever the agreement is. There's no set cost. That's between the two parties. But it's definitely an option. So if MSAD 51 wanted to expand their public pre-K general education availability into the community, that's certainly a conversation that can be had and supported by us as the DOE. The partner would need to meet all of what we refer to as Chapter 124 requirements. So there would need to be a certified lead teacher, all ratios would need to be maintained, of course they would need to have a childcare license, anything around classroom size, evidence-based curriculum, research-based assessment, et cetera, all those things would still need to be in place. And assuring that they're all in place, then that is a scenario that happens often. Tara, you have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to just add one thing because just to make sure we're clear on when you mentioned it would come, so it's public pre-K, so it's at no cost to the parent. It just reminded me of, so you had read aloud something from one of our community programs where they're open from 7-something in the morning to 5 p.m. That public preschool agreement, right, might be like, the public pre-K part of the day is for 3 hours. That part is at no cost to the parent.
Correct.
The parent could then choose to pay for the rest of the day or apply for a child care subsidy or something for the rest. So
or not be present.
Or not be present. It doesn't necessarily mean that the public preschool day is going to be the whole day that the child care is open. That's
Correct.
an MOU between the...
In order for a school district to receive EPS funding for a pre-K student, that pre-K student needs to have access to at least 10 hours a week. So at least, and schools are really creative in how that looks. Sometimes it's 2 hours a day, sometimes it's twice a week for 5 hours each day.
Although at this point, how many years we've been into pre-K, a lot of schools are at 3
Full
to
day,
4
full week.
hours a day or even full day,
Yes,
5 days a
right.
week.
And when we say that, I mean school hours. It mirrors the time of what the school, like an 8 to 3, 8 to 2-ish time frame. Lots of hands popped up.
Okay.
Great.
Do you know what the town of Cumberland's plan is as far as partnering with preschools, or because we're building this whole new school? And I'm sorry, this is the first time I've been at.
That's why we're here.
Do we know what the plan is? Are we partnering out with the community? Are we pulling everybody into this public pre-K school that's being built, or what's the intention? What's the plan?
That's why we're
Good
here.
question. Why we're trying to all figure this out.
But nobody knows where the money's coming
Like,
from.
we're trying to figure
or
out the
how much
money,
it's gonna
right?
cost.
This is like,
Welcome
right?
to pre-K, right?
Like every pre-K kid should get a full day and all the services, right? Except that then people will vote down the school budget if we all have, like, if it double, right? So it's like, how much money are we getting from the state, right? And then what can we stomach in terms of, like, can we partner with providers? What money can we get to you guys to make it work? Or does it not work? And we don't like, right? Like, we don't know the answers to this, which is why we're trying to figure this out in real time. So you are at the first meeting. You are on the ground level of figuring this out with us.
My question is, you keep saying 60 kids in Cumberland with IEPs. Is that through CDS?
Correct.
Or is, okay,
That's
because
CDS
there
data.
are a lot more kids than,
Potentially.
I probably have 10 kids in my program that have IEPs privately or have
medical model.
received services privately that are not included through, that could, but they have insurances and choose not to.
Did you say that's called the medical
And
model?
it's a snapshot. The CDS data is a snapshot in time.
Yeah. So,
Right. Or there are kids that aren't, that it's not severe enough, so they don't get services. So then when they land on the doors of Mabel I. Wilson, then that's when they finally get the thing that they need, because it's just, because they're like, I'm sorry, I'm losing my words. But it's then that they get their needs provided, because you have
There's more resources.
an entire department that's
Correct.
dedicated to that.
Well, Nicole, you were listing like the requirements for us to partner. How does the star rating system play into that? Because I'm still slightly
so the
confused about
requirements,
that.
I mentioned chapter 124. Those are not requirements to partner. That's requirements to offer public pre-K, period. So the classrooms at MIW already meet or should already be meeting those requirements. It's just to say that if you were to partner for the provision of general ed public pre-K, those requirements still need to be in place, even if it's physically at a different space. The QRIS system, the quality rating and improvement, I always get the I, system, is under Tara's office. It has nothing to do with us as the Department of Education. And your star rating for public education partnering doesn't exist. You don't have to have a specific star rating. You just have to meet chapter 124. But go ahead, Tara.
Yes. However,
Yes,
we're working to build this in more alignment, and stay tuned, we're trying. But for special education, they have decided that the new requirement will be star 3. They are giving programs, so any program who is currently a star 2 can apply to the Department of Education for a waiver. And you will have up to 2 years to be a star 3. And our office, at Office of Child and Family Services, is working with those in childcare are familiar with the Main Roads to Quality on having resources and funding available, because sometimes the difference between a star 2 and a star 3 is someone running a private preschool or childcare may have a teacher who needs to finish a credential, who needs to get some coursework done. There may be costs associated that we know you will incur to get to a star 3. So we have supports available to help our licensed childcare programs get there, and you have time to do that. So it doesn't necessarily impede the ability to partner if an SAU is looking to partner with you. It just means we can give you the email and you say, I'd like a waiver, and it's pretty simple.
Tara, do you have the number of programs in our district that are at least a star 3?
I believe our programs are all star 2 right now in Cumberland and North Yarmouth.
I think Tolland's a 3.
yeah, but we need to meet, because I'm not sure why we're not.
Well,
my understanding the last time I looked is that Toddlin is a 3, unless something's
yes.
changed.
And I will say, and any of the owners or directors here could provide more information on that, that is based on what our childcare programs submit through our QRAS, as she mentioned, in Maine is called Rising Stars for Me. So our office looks at annually what's been submitted to basically demonstrate that you've met these quality standards. A program at any time could submit further information, and so you may be doing things currently in your programs that actually meet star 3, 4, and or 5. You just haven't shown that to our office yet, and then we can review that and kind of add that rating.
And it takes time for you to build your rating. So I've owned the school for a year. I probably perform at a level 4, right? But I have to prove myself as a 3 for an entire year before I can even apply to be a 4. So I'll have to just sit on my hands and wait until I can be, or I can ask for a waiver from the Department of Education until I can be considered for another level up. And it is also important to note that some of the language in the Rising Stars, and I think that it's changed, but there was some language in there in which it required certain benefits that be awarded to employees. So it was like you couldn't be a star 5 if you didn't offer health insurance. Well,
employees.
Right. And if you're a very small school, the likelihood of you being able to, achieve that is minimal. So, but I think that there's language that is changing to work towards.
So the state just implemented updated rules for our Rising Stars for Me program, which means there are childcare programs across the state who, according to the new rules, may now be able to move up. And so there's an opportunity for people to resubmit documentation. Part of that was related to different requirements around staffing. We don't need to get into it here at this meeting. They can reach out to me if they have questions, or you can. But there's a lot of work in progress, and between our two departments on how we better align our requirements and then provide that information to all of you so that we can work on it together.
Yeah, I will say our offices work incredibly well together. We collaborate regularly. Yes.
So currently we have members of the community that send their kids outside of our district area. How does funding flow to, say, somebody that chooses to send their kid to somebody in Portland or Scarborough or wherever they work, per se?
Superintendent. Yeah.
And is that on the district's responsibility then to have the billing staff to collect all that data? And is that refunded? All that extra effort.
Questions. Do you want to speak about superintendent's agreements?
So I'm actually going to read directly from Aussie, my colleagues at Aussie's slide that you'll potentially have access to, because it's a little more convoluted during this cohort process. Once it's 100% law, and it'll be much easier, because right now it's sort of dependent on where that child lives, what community they are a resident of, and where that child receives their service if it's not in that same community. So I'm going to read it like verbatim from what they say. So for SAUs, school administrative units, that do not have programming, space, etc. within their pre-K programs, nor have any collaborative programs in their community, then the resident SAU, where the child lives, would do one of the following things, assuming that that child needs an IEP. They could do a superintendent's agreement with the SAU where the student is in a program. So if they live in Cumberland but attend preschool in Portland, then MSAD 51 could have a superintendent's agreement with Portland Public Schools for the provision of that child's service. That's an option. They could, MSAD 51 in this example, could develop partnerships with the child care or preschool program where the child attends. So MSAD 51 could call up Busy Bear Daycare in Portland and say, hey, want to partner with us, and we'll facilitate just between us. MSAD 51 could provide telehealth in that space. That, I will say, for the record, wouldn't be my first option. I'd want to exhaust all other things before that, but I'd be lying if I said that wasn't an option. MSAD 51 could offer that child a spot as far as like a drop-in service. So they might go to Portland for their childcare, but they might say, okay, but 2 times a week, could you come into Cumberland for this service and then go back? Some families that might work out okay. I'm willing to bet my life that for many it won't. If the IEP team agrees and that child can access services at the service provider location, that would be ideal. Or you could be creative and have conversations around what else would work. But there's a couple things more, I think. So SAUs are responsible for the early childhood special ed for children who reside in their SAU boundary. And they are not responsible for children that reside outside of it. So on the flip side, right, if a student lives in Portland but comes to story time, MSAD 51 is not responsible for the special education services of that child unless or until Portland reaches out and says, hey, we can't do this, can you? But at MSAD 51 will have needed to adopted this if it's prior to July 1, 28. After the cohort backs, it's a little bit different. But for now, where it's optional for schools to be partaking in this, that would be like a varying factor. Clear as mud, you guys.
Yes, we will
Clear
have to
as
do
mud.
all the paperwork and the billing.
So that
to your question, yes,
is
we will have to develop an
exactly-
individual service plan. We will have to do the goals. We will have to do the billing. Yes, yes, yes to all of that is what she just said.
And does
Thank
is that reimbursed?
Yeah, how do we pay for that? So what I'm hearing, like, is the best thing for children and families is to have flexibility. And in order for us to have flexibility as a district is to consider a number of different models. But to do that, we need staff to be able to manage that. Is there funding for that as part of this?
The IEP funding, through the special education funding. But above and beyond that, is that what you're referring to, Lena?
Well, we're looking a year out, and I would love to consider community partnerships, superintendent's agreements. But the easiest thing administratively is, I'm assuming, to bring the kids here because coordinating all of that. It's a full-time position, I would have to say.
I will say that's why most of the school districts around us are saying we need a pre-K administrator.
And that would seem like to the best needs of family, schools, communities is to be able to have that position in place like a year in advance.
Yeah.
To
Many schools have done that. How they pay for it specifically, I would ask the individual schools because there's no requirement or law on our end to say this is how you do it.
Do this,
but I would say
we're not going to give you any administrative
funds.
funds.
Call R214, call Kittery York. They have those positions in place, and they would be the best ones to
how do we make this
specifically
happen?
say how they make it work. And where the
Yeah,
money
like who manages the agreements? I mean, like I said, it seems like the best way for families.
And also, I will
students.
say, don't forget, the CDS Reach is not going away. They're remaining as a hub. So there may be a contract in place between MSAD 51 and CDS Reach to say, can you help us with this case management part-time?
Thank you
help
for
us with
adding
this
that.
eval?
You're going to see that in the slideshow, and our colleagues at OSSI reminded us to say that CDS is still going to be a resource hub, and they still have the ability to support you in different ways as we go through this transition.
Are they going to tell us where all the kids who live in our district are in childcare?
They can tell you that.
Yes.
They can?
They can. I can't. I don't have access to that.
They'll be able to tell us that.
The one, so I'll clarify in case you didn't hear her question fully. They can tell you where all the kids with IEPs are. If you want to know where all the children who are 3 and 4 years old, any
What about
children,
future IEPs?
right?
They can project to next year. Yeah.
They can project, but in terms of I think if I understand correctly, if you're wondering, all of the 3 and 4 year olds who live in Cumberland, what's any possible
North Yarmouth.
childcare that they or North Yarmouth that they attend right now? We would have to survey childcare directors and owners on that to find out where all the kids who live in our communities attend childcare. That we wouldn't have at the state level.
We already have all the IEPs in our sync system.
Okay. Meaning if
Where
it's
they go and
not
who
just
they are.
IEPs.
But that, and we know who's in referral, but what we don't have is all the kids that you all were talking about,
Yes.
who
And,
are
like,
our
how
bubble
many of
kids, who
your
don't
kids
quite
are
qualify, who are those are the kids. What?
Who might have a speech
Right.
Yeah.
But CDS could give you Part C data as well. Yeah.
We don't have access to Part C. We're not allowed the 0 to 3s.
But I think if you reach out and just said, without giving me identifying information, can you give me a number, how many?
We're allowed.
children?
We have the numbers.
The
We
numbers.
don't have. We're not have access to the kids.
Placements, sure.
I have two things. I want to, one, be really careful about thinking about pre-K and what is easy. I heard that word. It would be really easy to do this. It would be really easy, but I think collectively, and I know we have some parents and providers in the room, what also we are tasked with is what is best for kids.
Thank you, Danielle.
And if hiring one person to navigate that is going to help us do what's best for kids, I will pay the taxes all day long for that person. So I want to be really cautious because I know we're all here for that goal. What is best for kids? That should be the number one goal. I have another question that just kind of goes back to earlier. We have a pocket of, so I keep coming back to money, but I know that's like a thing.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Right.
For all of us.
We have a pocket of money from special ed to support 4-year-olds who have special services. We have a pocket of money coming from special ed to support 3-year-olds that have services. We have a pocket of money coming for regular ed 4-year-olds. Do we have a pocket of money coming for regular ed 3-year-olds?
No.
There is not.
Not at the moment.
So when we're talking about adding 3-year-olds in and we have 50% special ed, that will be covered. The other 50%, I imagine, will not be covered, and that's what we're going to be asking the taxpayers to pay. Is that, that was just like from a while ago?
Potentially, it depends on your model.
Right.
It's why there are some school districts joining cohort 3 who are going to focus on just 4-year-olds first.
I was going to bring that
and
up.
then
Yes.
develop 3-year-olds next. And that's also why partnership comes up even more with 3-year-olds.
Rub her back.
Right?
That is an option.
just have
In
to
the
be
cohort model
I'm not
only,
okay.
that is an option for districts. They can opt in as a slower rollout to better understand their community's needs and the funding aspects, and et cetera. They can opt to take on IEP responsibility for 4-year-olds only. But once July 1, 2028 hits, that's not going to be an option anymore.
And
that's only a 1-year option, I believe. Like if you're a cohort 3, 4-year-olds only, once cohort 4 year rolls around, I believe you'd have to take on both.
We've
You're not in cohort
We've already
3.
committed to cohort 4 as
Oh,
a
fantastic.
district.
I didn't know that.
we're all
So then you don't have that option.
We don't have that option.
I'm
We're
sorry,
already cohort 4.
Do you
'cause
mind just saying what cohort 4 is?
Yeah, I mean,
Sure.
we are cohort 4. We've committed because clearly we want to make sure we have a very thoughtful and slow and complete process for our community. So we have been very clear as a community that we are cohort 4. We're doing the very last cohort. And I don't know, I mean, the DOE keeps knocking on our door being like, are you sure? Don't you want to? You already have a good program for some. Are you sure you don't want to take on more 4-year-olds? Do you want to do this, slow process of doing 4s first? And we've been very committed and sort of stuck to, we're cohort 4. We are doing the very last cohort. So we don't have the luxury of starting with 4-year-olds and then doing 3-year-olds. We have said.
It means your responsibility
for
starts
all 3 and
fall
4-year-olds.
of 2027.
Right.
Whereas if you were cohort 3, your responsibility would start in the school
she
year
starts
with
July
2020
1,
or July 1,
July 1,
2026. It
Can
would
you
be.
further clarify that fall of 2027?
I should have said July 1 of 2027.
July 1.
July
So-
1, the door's open to all 4-year-olds?
Yeah, we are responsible in the summer. So, and that is an important clarification. The CDS does not, and IEP services do not run for 3 and 4-year-olds on a school year. They run on a calendar year. So July 1 is actually July 1. We are responsible starting July 1 for IEP services for our 3 and 4-year-olds, and it's rolling. I mean, students get identified, they have services, they have birthdays and become 3, right? They turn 3, and we're actually responsible for evaluations at 2 years, 3 months. So all of that happens in the summer. It happens starting July 1st in the summer, and that is when we are responsible, and it is for all of 3 and 4-year-olds for cohort 4, and that is what we committed to so that we could make sure that we had a very thoughtful process with all of our providers and community members.
All of 3 and 4-year-olds, or all
With
3?
IEPs.
Okay.
With
all-
identified
IEPs,
disability.
yes.
And that also includes students who are in the child finder process, so in the referral process. So anybody who is currently in the referral process as a 3 or 4-year-old, we are responsible for on starting July 1.
And one of the reasons that our departments are working, so closely with both childcare programs and school districts SAUs is that we know that's a lot to take on, and also that we want to support, of course, inclusive environments, least restrictive environments, which means you're looking at having children with IEPs that are 3, right, in a classroom, in a program, in a setting where they're with their typically developing peers. that's why the conversations are so important about looking at your space and capacity in your SAU and also your space and capacity in your community.
And I do want to clarify what was just said. CDS actually does follow the school calendar for 3 and 4-year-olds. You have to qualify for summer services for 3 and 4-year-olds. So they do follow the school calendar.
But they,
extended school
right,
year.
you have to qualify for extended school year, but they're on a
extended school year
60-day testing rather than a 45 school day, and so that's different. So it goes over the summer, meaning you're on a 60-day calendar day rather than 45 school days. We follow 45 school days, so the testing stops in the summer for our students, whereas for 3 and 4-year-olds, it doesn't stop in the summer. You keep testing.
Right, and as far as summer services, they do have to qualify for summer services. So their services that are rendered September through June are not necessarily the same services that are rendered for July.
We just are
June,
all,
July, and August.
my understanding through the 3 and 4-year-old laws, though, is like the 2.3 birthdays, if they fall in the summer, you still have to meet those birthday requirements. You still have to transition plan and meet on those students, and that's my understanding of how the law is currently written for the 3 and 4-year-olds.
So we'll have to have staff that are working in the summer now, which is, we don't really right now, other than admin and the few people we hire for extended school year services. But we'll have to have evaluators employed over the summer. We'll have to have
or contracted
preschool programming.
We'll have to have people
ed techs.
Yeah.
And all of that will be 100%
But those costs will be
reimbursed by the
associated with
state,
the
right? That's what I'm understanding.
Correct. That's why it's a July 1, quarter 1, right? Your July 1 count goes in, and that's the money you get, and that money will support whatever is needed in those counted IEPs, whether it's ed tech.
Is it funded leading up to the IEP, or only once they have an IEP? Because there's a lot of services that happen leading up to the IEP being written.
Is it at referral?
It's by quarter. July 1. To answer that specifically, I'd want
if
to.
they have an IEP, but if we're in the child find process that the district is responsible for, they're not getting.
Yeah, I'd want to talk to our folks at OSSI to be really specific.
Yeah,
about
I had that question about, how does.
Get that question answered.
Yeah, because, similar to a program coordinator, how do we pay for the person working through Child Find?
We're going to get back to you on that.
Okay, great. Thanks.
So I want to reiterate what Tara said. I don't know. Is it Tara or Tara?
Tara.
Tara, I apologize. What Tara was saying, because I want to make sure the board hears this, that if we are providing a public pre-K program for 3-year-olds on our campus, then at least half of the classroom, or no more, at least half have to be regular instruction, correct?
For an inclusive setting.
So that is something we have to again consider. And I know it's been said. I just want to reiterate that is something we could not just offer a classroom for kids who only have an IEP program, which for obvious reasons that's a very healthy thing. I presume that if we were not partnering, but the community model, I know that's a form of partnering, but the 2 and 3 star, I don't like thinking about it like a Yelp review.
I know.
2 stars sounds so bad.
I know.
Does that also need to be the case for their classroom? Like that, is that part of that requirement to be considered part of the pre-K?
So
Gen ed or special ed?
Yeah. I hope it becomes all one answer one day. But in the current answer, it's for the children with IEPs, at least a star 3. For the children who don't have an IEP, they need to meet Chapter 124 standards, which I know is just me saying a name and a number, but we can provide you the details of what that is. The school district meets it, so they also know what it is. But we have staff in our offices who can help with kind of making sure everyone knows what those requirements are for Chapter 124. One of the things we've had some of our child care directors and owners do in other communities is I've worked with them from our office in giving kind of a template of this is what Chapter 124 is, and then they outline for their SAU, here's everything that I meet, and if there's something that they don't meet, there might be a waiver, or there might be some process for them to come to be able to meet that, to be able to partner. So that's, again, something that you can work through over time. I think I would also add with that too, because you made a comment earlier, Nicole, when someone said, we have this time, right? It's a thoughtful process. That's great. One of the things we encourage from both our offices is that SAUs and licensed childcare, your partners in your community for early childhood education, take the time to work through this together, not only for formal, challenging, complex decisions around this whole special education transition, but also to build relationships and to build ways of collaborating that can be informal. The way you may develop earlier when you were all introducing yourselves and giving things around your program. I think you mentioned at Storytime, we'd like to have more of a connection to our SAU and sharing about the children who are in our program when they then go on to pre-K or kindergarten at Mabel Wilson. So there may be some things as you're going through this longer process that you start to develop. What are going to be our annual connections? Are we going to do a shared professional development together? Are we going to have a way of visiting each other's classrooms and programs that you can just start to kind of develop this as a community model, not in a formal partnership community model, but in a community model that we're all working together and getting to know each other and building ways of collaborating. And we also have ways to give you ideas and share what other communities across the state have been doing with that.
Well, and you hit on my next question, honestly, because at the risk of making it sound like this is our offer, I mean, I do want to hear more from all of the providers. Like, I'm not going to say the ideal situation because there's no such thing, and money is obviously a consideration, but in a somewhat more perfect world, I heard that having someone come and observe while the kids are playing is super helpful. I want to know whether, what it looks like to have a child be transported to the campus for their services and then come back to you versus that service coming to you. I want to know what it looks like to be evaluated. I think, Jenny, you were saying that sometimes you have to go to the Story Clinic to get evaluated, and that's might be under medical plan, but what would that look like if the district was providing that? So I do want to hear more, at the risk of not being able to promise you that that's what we would end up doing, but I do want to hear more from what you all are genuinely, mostly realistically hoping for.
And I just think to advocate, just because I know that we're all pretty familiar with each other. I don't know that the community is always familiar with what we do. And I think the beauty in what we have in this town, and I can't speak to other towns whether they have this or not, I can't imagine other towns have what we have, is that we've got a nature preschool. Mm-hmm. So if that's what your kid thrives, that's where they should go. We've got somewhere in between, is somewhere in between education and nature. And, we've got Sarah Rose, who's like just genuine, caring, love, smaller program, one person, right? Been doing it forever. We've got Storytime, who's connected to Story Smith. Not that that's the only thing, but like every single program that's here has a very special niche, and not every kid fits one program. I have seen kids that don't fit other programs and they come and they fit here. I have had kids that don't fit my program and are successful in other programs because that's where they fit. And there was a parent earlier, I think she left, who talked about like having the best fit for your kid because that's where it is. And I just, like this community, obviously I'm a little passionate about it. I think some of us are, but I think, money aside and whatever that looks like, I don't think any of us are asking for more than just let's provide it for our community because we can and we have it, right? Like, so I just, to your point, like I think we would all love to tell you more about what we do. And I think we would also be the first one to say like, my program might not be a fit, but I think what Jenny's doing, or I think what Sarah's doing, or I think what Storytime, or Toddle Inn that has wraparound care, or, Creekside Hollow who's outside all day, that might be exactly what your kid needs. Montessori, Waldorf, like there's a million different approaches and none of them are wrong, right? And so I think the risk you run with putting a program in a public school only and saying we're going to provide for all these kids is that many of us, and has happened in the past, will start to shut down because there aren't kids, because we can't do it for free. We can't. We can't. And if money is coming into the public school, and if there's an option for money to come in and just funnel through to be the same, that seems to me like a no-brainer. Again, it's just my opinion. It seems like a no-brainer, right? So I feel like we would love to do that. I just wanted to advocate for these people, because having that, and if we shut down and then you have one model and it doesn't work for that kid, I don't know who's those of us who are teachers who have been in schools and it doesn't work for that kid, you're up the creek without a paddle. Yeah. And now you have all of us sitting at home doing, legal work or something else.
Right, and I think the thing that's really beautiful that's already happening amongst us is that I'll have a kid who I'll say to myself, oh my gosh, we just don't have enough of this specific thing. But I know that Sarah does. And so I will say, Sarah, do you have a spot? Because I know you've got the magic that this person needs. And she'll say, in fact, I do. And so Sarah will do what she can do there, and vice versa. And it's actually something really special.
It is really
special. That we have going amongst us. And I think that it is one of the only times in a child's life where you really get to honor what kind of learner they are.
Right.
Not what best delivery system we can do to touch on the hours in which is legally required for them, but what is the best environment for them to learn and be prepared and be available for learning the way you can offer it at MSAD 51, right? Like, that's also part of our job, is getting them ready to love being at school, right? Like, what is the school bus like watching a teeny tiny human being get on the school bus for the first time from your facility? It's exhilarating and terrifying, and because we love them. They live in our hearts, and we think about them all day. And so when they come back to us, or when we see that those transitions are a lot for them, we wish we could ease that, and we would love to. And I think that really piggybacks on what Danielle is saying, in that we want to be a part of making a good thing happen, because it's what we're in the business of good things, of children,
So I know time is
And I
that
just
partly
want to honor everyone around the table. Is it okay if I?
Yes, please.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
We all
We're all saying that.
We're all coming
like,
out
please.
of our skin for you to speak. Please.
Deep respect for all early childhood educators, and I think what's important for the board to understand is that IEPs look really different. So one kiddo might need an hour of speech a week, and let him have it at Jenny's school, but a private system can respectfully decline to administer services. And the fact of the matter is that there are children who don't get the services that they need, and MSAD 51 public pre-K is too small to accommodate those kids, and those kids end up on long wait lists and have to drive far to get a spot in a classroom so that they can learn how to be in a classroom. So public or private schools can't fully provide public education, and our current public early childhood education falls short of administering services to the kids in our town. So it's not you want to provide some and not all of the IEP services that are needed. So when we think about building capacity, we have to make sure we can provide a least restrictive environment of 50-50 regular ed and special ed for all of the kids who need to be in a classroom, to figure out how to be in a classroom if they're not welcome, frankly, in your classrooms. And we don't do that now.
I should mention that once you form, there's certain requirements that come with forming different types of partnerships, right? So there's one specific to public pre-K that Nicole could speak on in terms of like how enrollment is done, not being able to turn away children. There's other requirements around partnering. If you were to do a formal contract where a child with an IEP is placed in a community-based setting, they cannot be turned away from that setting. So there is a public-private, you're exactly right. There is a shift in that once you form a formal partnership or contract with a school district, because you become a private provider who is part of a public system now. You are then held to the same standards as a public system. So we would want to make sure everyone's aware of that.
And just to add to that, services would be available to support the provider that couldn't support your child.
But we're not going to like drive ed techs to every single preschool in town. At some point, like I've been so hesitant to talk about this because it's like so deeply personal, but my story might be helpful. I had a kiddo who did great until she hit preschool. Preschool was super overwhelming. I was like, what's going on with my kid? I don't know, she's so bright, why is this hard? Shop around, try to talk to other people. Turns out she needed to be in an environment that had more adults than any of these places did, because that's what she needed. So I get on a wait list through CDS and go without anything because I'd missed the MSAD 51 lottery until she got a spot at a place in Portland where she was able to go for some preschool months. The emotional experience of being like, I am not welcome anywhere in my town because of my 4-year-old is just like, no one should live through that. It's so, it's not what our public school system should do. And this is a wonderful opportunity we have as a district to just eliminate that problem. Like that, people should be able to go to the private schools they want, and anyone else should just have a spot at public school. That's what it's like when you hit kindergarten, but it's not like that when you're 4, and it just should be. It should be.
Digging into the deeper issues of what's a public good, and yeah, but you're exactly right in terms of what we want to be able to make available for children, and I so appreciate you sharing that story because it is really hard. I went through something similar with one of my kids, and it's really challenging.
First grade with no adult support, like this stuff is like this tricky. These are tricky years.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
so anyway.
I know Gene has had his hand up for a little bit.
Yeah, I would just say, yeah, to me, that's what I thought why we were here, is
Yeah.
to talk about that. And
Yeah.
your story, I mean, in my experience as an educator, I mean, I had parents that went through, I mean, the stories were, this is really, I appreciate you sharing, but just multiple levels of multiple programs kicking out, and the kids coming into public school and they have had no education at all. And that's what we can solve. And it's like, we've got a solution, so let's do it and let's talk about that part of it. I respect the wonderful programs that are all here, and they're going to continue to provide that support, and there'll be kids to do that. But these other kids are not getting that wonderful support. They're not accessing your programs. I wish they were. I wish it worked that way. So I just feel like, yes, and I appreciate you sharing too. I know that's difficult.
I would like to say that I think most programs would say, yes, come join me, if we had access to support.
Yeah.
I think what we're getting at is that there's been a system in place, primarily in K-12, that is now pre-K to 12, that for decades has more of the resources and funding available. The child care system is a patchwork system that has grown up over time, where the resources you have available are what parents can pay. Because as a state and country, I mean, this gets into much bigger issues about how we fund early care and education, birth to 5, and that we don't fund it as a national system of support that makes sure every family has access, every early childhood educator that works in childcare can get great compensation, and every program can run and thrive. So, right, that's getting into some huge issues that we're definitely not going to solve tonight, but it's worth understanding that in order to support all of the children, those typically developing and with IEPs, we need to look at the capacity that you have that is in this community in Cumberland and North Yarmouth, understand what's been available before, but also think about what's possible, because some of the limitations that may have been in place in some of the community-based providers there may be new options open with funding, like what we talked about tonight, funding for the full funding for a child with an IEP, public pre-K funding that's available, and other possible creative solutions that you come up with together. So it may be that you've had some community-based programs that previously really couldn't provide supports for all the children that needed them, but you, by partnering together, are able to make more of that happen. That's a longer process, obviously a lot more than we're going to do just this evening to help you figure out all the details, and that's for you to do in your process in the coming year to see kind of what works for the community and for the school district. So I wanted to see, do you want us to turn it back over to you now to close out, or how? We had put on for next steps, and I know there's still questions and there's discussion, so how do you want to handle
Would people feel
time?
about 10 more minutes of the workshop? Can we give it 10 more minutes?
Okay.
And I know you've had your
I just, if people don't mind, I'd love to share my experience. My name's Caitlin. I'm an SLP. I work in a different district. I live in this district.
You say that acronym for
Yeah, sorry, speech language pathologist. Sorry, I'm a speech therapist. Yes. I work in a different school district that we are servicing pre-K students. I work pre-K to 3 mostly right now. We are doing both, and I just say really consider doing both. We have pre-Ks in our buildings, in our pre-K, in our K to 3 buildings. We have pre-Ks there that are thriving, that are going well, that our kids are getting services. It's great. We have partnered with communities, providers and preschools, and that is going well because they are getting funding, they are getting services, they are getting people to come in and work with those kids so those kids can stay where they're doing well. And let me just say, we see kids coming in from preschools and we're like, that kid went to that preschool, huh? Yep, he's looking good today. You know, like we see the difference it makes kids being in preschool. So I just really don't believe it's one or the other. Like I've just been lucky and we're in year 2 or 3 of this that I'm seeing, but it's nice to see the community partners as an option, as well as building up we're having more and more pre-K classrooms in our building too. And I just really urge you guys to consider looking at both and doing a little bit of both. Also, majorly because of your concern money-wise, staffing, there are no staff. Like, it's really hard to find
and
SLPs,
it's not a
OTs,
funding thing. It's
special
that,
educators.
Like, I'm also a speech pathologist in the community. There's just not enough of us.
Yeah.
So, like, I could be treating all day, every day, and there's still super long wait lists because our state is not
we don't have a lot of
educating enough speech pathologists to fill this need.
But so you have the CDS people who they're going to need a job. Like they still need to work the CDS SLPs. The daycares, they still need people. You know what I mean? So I just want to say we're doing it and talk to other, districts that are into it because I'm seeing it work. It is hard and it is tricky and it is a lot. And we have hired a pre-K coordinator, but I really encourage you, just as someone who's had that experience watching it and seeing it happen, like I do think it's really possible. It's a lot of work.
How many partnerships have you entered into? Do you know?
There is 4. There's 4. Yes. So.
And you did hire a coordinator.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Can we hire a coordinator like tomorrow? Right?
They did it the first year. They did the second year. So highly encouraged. We have to.
Right.
Highly encouraged. There's another one. Sorry.
Oh.
So I'm also a parent of 2 kiddos in the district. I'm also a teacher of middle school in another town nearby. My child, during the preschool years, we went through 4 different daycares. And I think that it is wonderful to have everyone at this table, but I think that more people, this is a 2-way conversation of daycares and the kids with the needs. And I think that those families should be potentially sought out. Because I will tell you, I think for those of us who are here tonight, that is a hard thing to do emotionally. Yeah. Being kicked out of multiple schools is very emotionally challenging, triggering, and it is not just for the parent, it is for their child. And that perspective needs to be considered and it needs to be sought out because if you're in it in the moment, like we're a little bit removed and it's still emotionally triggering. If you're in that moment, you're in survival mode, you're trying to keep your head above water, you don't have the capacity to speak out and advocate for something. And so I just would hope and wish that those voices are called upon and sought out, because it is hard and there are needs there. And once we got, my motto was get to kindergarten, get to kindergarten, get to kindergarten. That's all we have to do is get to kindergarten. And I cried at the first meeting because they were proactive with resources and told us about things that we didn't know that we could have. MSAD has been incredible. And families need that support. Sure. It has a ripple effect through not only the family, the child, the teacher, the other students. My child tore down other children's schoolwork in the hall because he's having a difficult time. I never want someone else to have that impact that they couldn't take home their artwork, which just sounds like a small thing, but it's huge. It benefits everybody. It benefits the other kids, it benefits the teacher, it benefits the dynamic between the parent and the teacher if they have the support that they need. So I just strongly advocate to hear from the other people who are probably struggling right now and people who hesitate to want to speak out.
I've been taking notes about some potential next steps that you might all want to consider, and I think as board chair, you actually had mentioned this at the beginning, that maybe one of them is a meeting with parents to really talk and hear from the community. So that may be one next opportunity, since this one has been more centered on kind of early care and education providers. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I know that was Thank you. Quick before I explode. First of all, I look around these tables of the providers that are here. All of us have an education in childhood. Early childhood education, which is uniquely different than elementary education. It is hugely different. Child development is what we are talking about. I am not a daycare. I do not take care of days. I take care of children, and I am clear about that. When I don't think that I know all of these providers sitting around. With the MSCC, but know all of them and know that they are putting children first and children's needs first. Second thing, Jean, this goes back to originally I wrote it down. Maine is actually second in the country of the number of preschoolers we dismiss from programs. It is because we have a lot of programs, and none of these around this table are those programs who are not qualified to be running educational programs. So when you're talking about partnering with schools, you're not partnering with people that don't know early childhood. I've been doing this for 34 years, and I have had 3 kids in 34 years who I met with the parents. I did not kick them out. I met with the parents, and it was not the right situation. And all 3 of those children ended up going into a
special purpose,
very small special educational program.
Probably a special purpose program.
Special purpose for all 3 of them. I work with families, whether they have kids that have significant needs, and I work with families that are working on a little stutter. I don't care what their child's needs are. I am meeting that child at where they are at. And the other thing that I think that we will miss if we don't partner with some of it, 4 of us, I think I heard, spend significant amount of time outside. Nature is a great place to learn, and we're promoting wanting to be learners. Our job is to make kids want to learn so that when they get to kindergarten, when they get to 4th grade, because that's the age in Cumberland schools that they are they're going to school to learn, not to learn to learn, then they're ready to learn. They are there, they want to be there, they're not crying and peeling off parents. So I think that we need to be thoughtful in who we're partnering with, but also understanding and valuing the people that we have in our community. I mean, we have some good resources in our community who are doing some great things and are working with all the families. I mean, you got to work with everybody. You can't just say, oh, yeah. No, it's on the ground. And we had a meeting, I think, Tara, you were here, and it was in this room maybe 5 years ago.
It was fall of 2019. I was looking back, Jeff, to see.
And there were probably twice as many providers as there are here.
100%.
And they are not, programs and programs are closing and closing. And this community needs childcare. 3 hours a day is not going to cut it. And providers aren't going to be able, I don't want kids coming back at nap time. That's a horrific setup for providers to say, okay, you're gonna eat lunch and now you're gonna take a nap. But
And
we're
how many
still,
pairs of snow pants?
yeah, and how many pairs of snow pants? So, thinking about all of the children and what is best for everybody. Another thing with early childhood kids that's unique with kids, transitions are tough. So why are we putting more transitions on them? We are in a society right now that our biggest concerns are the anxieties we're breeding. Putting kids through multiple transitions a day is going to create more and more anxieties.
Sure, and if you're servicing kids if your focus is on actually enhancing the benefits of the services that you're aiming to provide, but you're making them get on the bus on and off, then you're undoing some of that
100%
work. Unintentionally, sure, but they only have so many spoons.
Yeah.
Can I jump in? I think we have a little bit of a math.
Oh.
I'm here. I think we have a little bit of a math problem, just in terms of there's just a finite amount of kids, and so it's not easy. It's one thing to just be like, there's enough kids to go around. Like that's just not actually true. But I think first, also, we have a philosophy problem. Like I'm hearing a lot of logistics, I'm hearing a lot of legal stuff, but we haven't really talked about as a board, and we're starting as a community to kind of figure out what we want from a philosophy standpoint. Like, do we as a district right now, K through 12, want to be in the preschool space? Because it is a very different developmentally appropriate or finite or whatever. Like it's developmentally like a completely different world and environment. We might as well just open a college and you know what I mean? So we don't have to control everything. And I think what I'm hearing from the town so far and a lot around this table is, to Leanne's point, we want flexibility. And I think that we have to be very careful with, I think in part that flexibility could be an option in this school, but if we put way too many, from a math standpoint, resources into that and we funnel too many kids here, we lose the flexibility here because there aren't enough kids for them to be sustained. So I think we have to be really careful about what is our philosophy of how much we want to take this on and what our purpose is and our role in that, and be really strategic about the partnerships that we form. Because I don't hear anyone here thinking that it's a good idea to put all of our eggs into one model, one basket. We all want a differentiated approach, and I think all the research would say that. I know my experience would say that. I know my kids' experience would say that. So I think we just have to be really careful with jumping ahead towards what's being offered to us by the state and all the law, and really thinking about generally as a community-based board, what is our philosophy in this town and how does it impact? Because our goal here is we have to do what's best for students and not necessarily the providers, but I think what's best for the students personally is what the providers are. So I think if we can just have a meeting where we discuss our philosophy and get to that.
And just to be clear, Tim, we are a pre-K provider.
Yeah. It's our
yes, it is. But what I'm saying is
a universal pre-K.
No,
yes,
we are
that's what I
not.
mean,
Yes, but we are at this table as a provider.
But it's your responsibility to the program that already exists and maintaining it and the people that work within it.
And what you're getting at also may be even broader than you as a school board. It may be MSAD 51 School Board and Cumberland and North Yarmouth Town Councils and others thinking, if you're talking philosophy and strategy, it may be a larger, what is the community, these two communities, these two towns want to be an early childhood strategy or an early childhood vision for the communities. Because even though for MSAD 51, that's going to be more of a focus on pre-K and preschool, there are some towns who are starting to look at that now in terms of like, what is our birth to school vision? What do we want to do to make sure parents who move to Cumberland and North Yarmouth can find infant care, toddler care, access preschool, access IEPs and services? So not to say you have to do all of that in the next year, but it's something to also think about too in terms of just broader visions and philosophy. Yeah.
And I just want to speak to the parents that spoke because I feel you so deeply. And I just want you to know and I think I can speak for my colleagues here too. If we had the resources that are being offered, 1,000%, you would not be turned away. There would never be one of these providers, I can confidently say, with a resource provided in an IEP that says, this is what we know this kid needs. It's something that schools can do right now because they have it already and they're receiving funding automatically from the state. We receive nothing. We receive a little bit. Sorry.
It's almost nothing.
But it's I have to say, it's hard to hear like finance being like, oh, we actually get more than what we really use. Because do you know that for us, what we receive exactly precisely has to go exactly precisely where it needs to go. Yeah. I cannot divert that stipend for my teachers to pay for a second teacher. I can't do it. I'm not allowed.
Right.
I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed to provide extra IEP services. I already have a 3 and sometimes 4 to 12 ratio in my classroom. Like,
we can't divert IEP services
Yeah.
either. I just want to be on the record.
no, I was just saying, like, financially, right? We have zero wiggle room, and all of that comes from parents. And we try really hard to be like, hey, we can't charge you. Like, I'm a parent too. I don't want to pay this. I don't want to. But at the end of the day, I don't collect a paycheck. My staff does, but I don't, right? And you might look at that thing for preschool and be like, "These really?" Right? But like, I just wanted to say that out loud to you because I also am a parent of tricky kids who also don't make it in different spaces.
Me too.
Right? And I know there's other parents here who are like that, and I need you to hear that from Cumberland specific. I can't speak about, I guess I can really only speak for myself, but I know some of these people so well. You would not be turned away. You might have a kid who's having a tricky time in preschool. We have them all. I have kids who trash rooms all the time. I have kids who, climb up to the top of the tree and then I have to climb up and get them down, or whatever. Just, if there's a resource we identify, the only threshold we have is if we can't access that resource. And when we ask CDS and they flat out say no, our hands are tied. There's nothing I can do. When you're talking about having a kid who bolts, into the creek, like, it's a safety issue. You have to have support for that kid. You have to. And if that IEP service is not available to you, then you can't safely service that kid. Like, that's just, it is what it is. And do we want to turn kids away? Never. Never. So you're right. I think a rolling model would be great for something like that. If it's a place, an Odyssey or wherever the specialized preschools, it'd be great if they could just take the kids that really need that service. But at the same time, we try to filter through, like, okay, you're in nature, you're doing, I have more adults, and we try to work through that with families. And but I need you to hear that, like, none of us want to turn kids away, and I think we can probably all count on one hand the number of kids we have, but it does happen. It does happen.
Can I respond?
Yes, please.
CDS doesn't want to send an ed tech to every single private preschool, so they say you need to go to a special services preschool where you can have more adults in the room, and that's what MSAD 51 needs to expand and provide. Because it makes no financial sense to send a one-on-one to all of these places around town. We need to figure out who needs a 2-to-1 ratio, and then we need to have capacity in the new school to accommodate all those children. so that their staffing can stay the same and they can take care of their children and maybe have the speech therapist. But that's the hole to fill, and that's what that's what's failed. That's why the law passed. That's what we can save.
And don't repeat that mistake potentially again by trying to single it out here and then have more families struggle. Learn from the broken system that's happening right now.
I mean, we could talk
I mean,
all night,
you know,
but
this is, yeah.
Go to the survey.
Yeah, so.
You have a question for me, though? You did.
Oh, yeah, no.
Okay, you're good. Okay.
Yeah, if you want to go and share what the work that has
Well,
been.
that's why I was wondering, do you want to still do that tonight, or do you want to build in like a next opportunity? Depends what you're.
Do you want to just give a little bit of an
I
overview?
can. Yep. We wrote up some stuff quickly, so bear with me because it's a little bit dense. Okay. So this is on the survey results that I think most everyone in this room probably filled out for us. So thank you for that. So just a brief background. The intent of the survey was really a broad stroke to gather information to then do further work. It was not an end point, it was a starting point. We started with outreach to stakeholders to form a committee, and then we were charged with gathering input from Cumberland, North Yarmouth communities. The survey was created with a variety of models ranging from preschool students receiving IEP services in the community to them being added more programs in the pre-K, and it was really just to gain a pulse of our community, right? To see where our folks were so that we could gather more voices, because we knew we were not going to fill, an auditorium full of people, and we wanted to just get a pulse on the community. And again, it was a starting point to elicit dialogue, and the intent was to, at one point, the intent was to have focus groups form from that survey. One of the questions was, were you interested in joining a focus group? So that we could then take those questions and dig into further dialogue. So it was really a broad stroke survey. So this is dense, bear with me. I will slow down or speed up or repeat anything that's needed because you're not looking at anything. The board does have the actual results and has looked at them. So the survey, there were 286 respondents across both of our communities. 92 people went on to respond with comments. 26.9% respondents were staff, 12.2 were community members, 56.6 were parents, and 1% were students. And 2.8% were providers. So 30.4 of those expressed interest in participating in a focused group, so they wanted further dialogue. So out of those people, 73.8% of people said that they would like to see the district to offer more pre-K, significantly more or more pre-K children in our community. They wanted more district programming to happen. They felt like they wanted an increase in programming. 18.9 wanted to see us do the same amount of programming. 7.2 wanted fewer or significantly fewer students programmed for. So then we went on to the options. For those of you that did fill out the survey, I think you know what I'm talking about, that there were a variety of options that were outlined. And those were captured on a Likert scale ranging from sort of least preferred to most preferred option. And so I'm going to sort of capture these in generalities of sort of preferred to unpreferred, so I'm clumping them since they were on a Likert scale, and certainly digging into the data would be important for anybody who wants more specifics. But wanting 3 and 4 year olds 4 days a week for half days, there were 56.3% of people who preferred that option and 43.7% who was unpreferred for. Having special ed staff travel to local pre-Ks for services, 37.8% preferred this option and 62.2% found this unpreferred. Transporting students to the district for services, 40.9% thought this was preferred and 59% said this was unpreferred. Serving students with needs for self-contained programming, up to 50% with neurotypical peers on campus. This was 56.3% preferred and 43.7% unpreferred. 4-year-olds 4 days a week and 3-year-olds transported to the district so that they would be in another provider place and just coming to the district for their services. This was 55.9% preferred and 50.3% unpreferred. And then 4-year-olds, 4 days a week, full or half day on the district. And staff travel to the pre-K locations to provide IEP services to 3-year-olds. This was 54.8 preferred and 45.1% unpreferred. So certainly, I think, you know, that's like a very broad digestion of the data. I think looking at the data, which the board has done more specifically, certainly happy to answer any questions. I think there were some themes that came out of the comments that I think the board had an opportunity to look through all of those as well, that if we had more time, we'd be happy to dig into, but that gives the community just a broad stroke of the outcome for those people that might be joining in live stream or want to have an understanding of what the data showed.
I think one of the pieces that was portrayed to us tonight that hasn't been portrayed to families is that if there was a partnership with programs, that the funding could potentially be covered for families. I think a lot of families are saying they want public pre-K because it would be free to them, and it has not been portrayed to families that there's potential that their funding could be covered in private programs through the school district, through contracts, through other means. So I think that's something important for families to be aware of, because I guarantee the majority of families would want to stay in their current programs where their children are if they knew that they could get assistance with funding.
Yeah, thank you for putting all the work that you did into it. I think it's really great that we have a good starting point. I will say that I heard a lot of comments just about how this was just confusing, and even like I feel like tonight there's been a lot of different like back and forth and clarification and well, that's not quite true, and like that, how are we ever going to like represent that well for them to be able to make really good decisions in this survey? However, the comments I think are really valuable. So I don't know if we can maybe put them in ChatGPT and do like some kind of summary of them. But like, I feel like people should see these comments and draw some questions from it, and we should merge what we've learned tonight into a little bit of a narrative that we've shaped, because I think the comments are they get really to the point of their questions and concerns that I'm not sure if the data really reflects that. So hopefully we can maybe come up with a way that, you know, we can aggregate those.
Tim, can I just speak really quickly to the confusing question that you said, that there's like a lot of confusion, because I think that narrative got spread pretty quickly by people. And so Mari and I did aggregate the data a little bit on the comments, just because we wanted to say, you know, both of us have our doctorates. We went through programs that taught us how to develop surveys, right? We have education on how to develop surveys. Now, granted, we didn't have a long time to develop the survey. We know that. Like, we had to turn this around pretty quickly, but both of us went through 2 different programs that taught us how to develop research design and surveys. So we did that. We developed a survey. We put it out to our pre-K committee, who gave us feedback. We took that feedback. We shaped it. We put put it out, and then we started to hear this narrative from a couple of people that it was confusing, and we were like, geez, like, we know the idea of all the muck of pre-K is confusing, but is the survey itself confusing? Because on the same time, I was actually getting quite a bit of calls complimentary of the survey, and actually some districts asking if they could lift the survey to take it. And so we did aggregate the data a little bit, and just to sort of put a pin in that, there were 16 of the 92 respondents on the comments who had some level of confusion. So 16 out of 92 respondents, or 16 out of the 286 people who commented, felt some level of confusion. So that's really only 5.5 or 6% of the people felt confused who chose to comment. Now, there might have been more people, but that's not a huge level of people who felt concerned or confused. Now, maybe more people did and they didn't choose to comment, but I might just challenge that maybe a few loud people chose to say that the survey was confusing.
We don't need to get, like, there's no attack or anything like that. I mean, I read it, I was confused. I asked my wife, she was confused. So like, I expected other people may have been confused in the articulation of it. But I think what it did give us valuable information. So there's definitely value out of that information too. Okay. So I write surveys too. I get information. People have negative feedback or positive feedback on it. I think there's a lot of value to take out of it. But for me personally, I'm just saying I got a lot of value out of the comments
Me too.
themselves.
Me
And
too.
so I think if we figure out some patterns in that, and we can merge it with some of the data, I think it'd be really valuable just to see where to go for next steps.
Yeah, and the 6 themes that we found out of it, and I would love to hear what other people get out of them, were the confusion piece, assertively referencing collaboration with providers was a theme that we got, referencing a preference of not having district staff travel to private pre-Ks, childcare needs and wanting a preference around that, like I need childcare, right? I don't just want 3 hours a day, I need childcare. That seemed to be a theme from the comments that we saw. A preference for 4-year-old onlys being on site and not 3-year-olds, because developmentally that seems not appropriate. That seemed to be a comment theme that came out. And then cost. Cost seemed to be a lot in the comments, like tell me about cost. So I don't know if you saw other themes in the comments, but those seem to be what popped for us in the comments when we analyzed them.
I did have a lot of families come to me say, I don't know what they're asking. And then I intentionally sent it out to some of the older people in the town because I wanted them to do it. And I know for a fact many of them didn't, because they didn't understand what they were being asked. So just anecdotally, and those are not people on Facebook and doing the community whatever. Those are just anecdotally things that came back from my experience.
Yeah, I 100% found it confusing. Not just there wasn't a level of education, right? It's like I could answer it, and I did answer it. I didn't write that I found it confusing, but filling it out, I was like, I wish there was a workshop first where I could understand this. I could understand, like, there's so much that goes into it. So it's like, I think a lot of the answers, it's a great starting point, and the comments are great, and I think we can work those into the, the focus groups, right? But like, I barely understand this, and I've done dozens of hours of research on my own time, and so to ask community members, A, to fill anything out, and B, to have the knowledge to answer it in a nuanced way, I think it's a tough ask. It wasn't hard to fill out a Likert scale survey, but like, how do we know what different things are going to cost? Like, so like, I don't want you to feel like, I thought it was great for what it is, which is like a snapshot, and you couldn't give everyone a 2-hour workshop on the ins and outs. So like, I think you're absolutely right. It's an amazing starting point, and like, we should take the comments, because those are the 260 people who cared enough to give them to us, and there's many other people who didn't comment, and who knows what they think.
Well,
and like,
an
so
incredible amount of people who are
I think it's a great
interested in
starting
being
point.
part of focus groups,
Yeah.
and I think that's there's so much interest, which is awesome. So,
I mean, I don't know if do you want to say anything to close? You've listened for a while. I was just thinking to remember that we're here as a resource, and particularly the staff at DOE who can help you navigate a lot of this.
Yeah, and I wrote down just some notes for my own thinking going back, because there are other districts in your surrounding areas that have done many of the things that you're perplexed by. So I'd be happy and strongly encourage you to talk to them. Talk to their administrators, talk to their partners, talk to their pre-K coordinators, because they have them, and better understand what it looks like for them. It's not your community. It's not the exact same scope, but it is boots on the ground, right? Like, I'm at a higher level. I can talk the talk till 8:52, plus. But I think you'll gain a lot of perspective from those doing it day in and day out. So I've just jotted down some notes. I'll follow up with Jeff and Leanne. In the event that you want to reach out to others, I would really support you to do that. Also, to say, on our early learning team, we have a public pre-K partnership specialist who's really poised to continue these conversations. So, don't hesitate to reach out to her, me, etc.
And even though
the resources and support are
special
there.
services team didn't have someone available tonight,
Right.
they also hired
yes.
additional staff and have people who can continue. Between all of us, we can provide support as you need it. So
We want you to
whether
ask.
it's the
We want you to
board,
reach out.
Jeff, you and your team, childcare directors. Remember, I'm a resource. Our office is a resource, so we're here for you.
Yes.
Great.
You're already leaps and bounds ahead of others by just having a meeting like this. I will say, like, it's really wonderful to have all of this expertise in one space. It's really wonderful. Yeah, no, it's lovely. Yeah, it's very transparent. It's great.
Do you say anything now official?
Well, we still have more of an agenda.
Oh, okay.
But
just
we'll officially, as this was just a beginning conversation, workshop, really. We're really thankful for the work that has happened within the district. There's a committee, as mentioned, that Julie's heading up that is working on this on the ground in the district. We're supporting the conversations with the community as a board, because we will have a decision before us that we need to vote on later this school year to know what we're going to be implementing in 2027. And you have our contact. I know each provider, I reached out to, you have my contact. The board is open and available. Please come back to see us, but you will be in touch with next steps.
Yeah,
so,
thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I love the outdoors.
Yes, and staying late. We know it gets late. Yes.
You don't have to leave.
Yeah, where are you guys going?
You don't have to go home and you can't stay here.
I did. I got it all done. I'm happy. I knew. I know we're being good till 10, but
You know, they all need a breakout meeting for after the workshop to just go chat.
Yeah, that was like, and I, because.
Give your pen back. How about that?
Oh, thanks, Corey.
Great, thank you.
I'll have it for you next time.
Yeah, please do. Usually.
Oh, and then at night it gets cold.
We got nothing. Are we moving quality time? Or am I just saying?
Don't start that.
I know. Depends on how much you want to talk about.
Sorry, if you start yawning, I'm done.
It's good. I've been fighting it all
I
night.
didn't sleep worth a darn last night.
Thank you so much.
All I had was budget numbers.
Thank you for
calling. Like,
I could talk all day about it. It's my jam.
couldn't get rid of them.
Have a great night.
Well, I was doing Fun Town Splash.
Oh, no. They'll make
Oh
it.
my
All
goodness.
day.
What?
Town Splash Town.
Bookkeeping.
Oh, bookkeeping.
Sorry. Bookkeeping.
I like this little.
Christina, you sitting in?
No, I'm leaving.
All right.
Really feel bad.
Can I have a motion to approve GHS Science Wing? Never mind.
So moved.
All right, Jesse and then Lauren.
We're still recording.
On the floor.
Go in the middle.
All right. We're talking about our item for action, the surf overage, SRFF. Are you going to present this?
Yeah, I can talk about it. So the SRF project was approved by the voters a couple of years ago for the high school science wing, and we went out to bid, and the bids all came in higher than what the budget was for the revolving renovation fund. So Doten's Construction was the lowest bid, so we had Oak Point work directly with Doten's, and there was value engineering that was done to the project, which basically brought it down within like 130,000 of what the budget would be. The budget was initially about probably 4 million or 400,000 over what the budget was, and so they did the value engineering, and now we're down to just needing 131,000. Possibly we won't need that money because, or all of it, because there's about an $80,000 contingency to the project. So there's a good possibility we won't use all 131. But we just want to get that authorized so I can get a letter of commitment to Doten's and get this project rolling to get it done this summer. we're approved for an extension through till October of '26 to be able to get this project done. So that's where we're at right now.
Could you remind us what the project entails?
The project entails the science wing at the high school, and it's upgrading the HVAC system for the HVAC system for that area. So the value engineering that was done was that the original HVAC system was meant to go outside the building with structural supports to the roof, was how it was originally designed. Doten's came in, took a look at it, and said, let's put a different type of unit in the ceiling, okay, in the hallways and up the thing, which required less structural work, less work all the way around, and the units were less expensive. So you get the same thing, just a little value engineering going through into the project, which helped reduce the cost. So, so everybody worked together on this. You know, myself and Don Foster are very integral in working with Doten's and Oak Point, and it's been a good team effort, and we just want to get this project done. So what happens, we borrow the money, so let's say it's close to 1.2 million that ends up, or a little over $1 million that's borrowed. Part of this money will come out of our own capital reserve account, which we already have. It won't involve, you know, additional taxes. So about 50% of the principal is forgiven, 0% interest. So it's literally something that the district can't forego because you're getting free money plus you're getting free interest. Okay, so it's important to move forward with it.
And so the 131,000 is above and beyond the 50%.
Is above and beyond the 50%, but not quite sure we need it. There's a possibility we may. It's an up to amount, and so there's a possibility we may need that additional amount, but we aren't quite sure till we get fully into the project.
Any questions?
Heating and cooling.
Heating and cooling, does both.
Temperature policy guy.
One wing gets heating.
One wing, and then
One will go there. Not when we really
well, and out of facilities, just so it's known as well. I mean, Tim, you know, we had the conversation that we're going to be doing an RFQ for an energy project at the high school and see what comes back on that RFQ. Okay.
So there would have to be further approval if it did go above that. There's no, like, so if they manage to somehow they find something when they pull something apart, they're gonna basically come back to the board and say, yeah, we actually need another $40,000 or whatever at this point. Or is it a contract?
We believe that this is it. There'll be a contract on the project, and you know, change orders would be handled if there's something, you know, that's you know, found that was a surprise. But I think everybody's pretty confident in what we're doing.
We should make everyone aware that there's a lot of HVAC challenges and concerns coming up. So, you know, just you're going to hear different projects and different ways to get to that point. So, just like it's easy for us to be like, oh, well, another HVAC? I thought we solved that. Like, this is for one specific wing. The high school is in such a way where it's kind of a complex system of arrangements, and we're trying to figure out the best way on facilities to kind of deal with that. But the middle school is another one that, you know, we are challenged by. So this is one of many of a theme that we're probably going to see over the next, you know, I'm not going to put a time on it, but you're going to hear a lot of it over time because it's one of our highest needs. Thanks to that policy that we passed.
Yeah. Well, in the chiller unit at the chiller unit at the middle school is, you know, Tim, from facilities, we've actually submitted a school revolving renovation fund application for the, you know, $800,000-900,000 chiller unit over to the middle school that's, you know, reached its useful life and it needs to be replaced. So we should hear
about that. Yeah.
We should hear back on that by the end of January, whether we got the application. And so we made a pretty good push on that. Let's see what happens with it, okay?
Great.
All right, great.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor? All right, it's unanimous.
I did want to mention one other thing. We may. I need another 20. No, it's no. There may be some additional votes that we'll be bringing back, which will just have basically authorizing a contract to Doten's, those types of things, right? That may come back a little bit later, just because I've got to take a look at where we ended with the project, and you know, and then there may be some authorization votes coming forward, but it's just part of the process and the overall process. Okay.
All right, communications. Board goes back to school.
Yes, you should have got a calendar invite from Melissa already, and inviting, hopefully you can make it. We chose to, leadership team really felt it was better to size it back a little bit. And we did get some comments that hopefully this works better for all of our board members, and you can join us for the 2 visits instead of having to schedule 4 visits. They're nice. 2 hours each time though, instead of 1 hour each of the 4. And part of it is we're making the reconfiguration to the new grade span, so this will be a good opportunity for you to see 2 schools and see grades across the span for elementary and secondary. And so we hope you can join us. The administrators are looking forward to working together to provide you that experience this year. I think it'll be probably better than what you've gotten before. So,
it's like a big game here.
Last year.
Will you guys come to visit us?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, we'll be at the high school.
So we'll write in where we are.
We like,
and then you guys will come.
We walk through awkwardly. We're like, hey. And
I remember seeing you guys, and then I remember thinking, I hope they come to my next class. I think we're doing something cool.
Oh.
And then I never saw you again.
Oh.
Oh, Mr. Francis, he's scheduling it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So obviously today's format's a bit different because of the workshop, so we don't have all of the committee updates. We know there's a lot going on, and I was just looking ahead to our board schedule coming up. We only have 1 regular board meeting in February because the other meeting date is our joint community workshop, and I'm like, we're trying to fit a lot in on February 5th. We were going to do our mid-year, like a mini board retreat, which I still think would provide us a lot of value, especially coming off of tonight's conversation, to have an opportunity to sit down as a board and talk about sort of how we want to support the direction of the district in its final stages of the work that still needs to happen between focus groups and the work that's being put together to put a recommendation before us. I just feel that it would be helpful for us as a board to have a conversation with our takeaways, and I would like that to be prioritized, I guess, maybe over a broader board workshop for February 5th. I have like a little preview of things that need to be scheduled at certain board meetings, and there's sort of already a lot that are on February 5th anyway, but I think however we format a section for the board just to be able to sort of have some open discussion, I think that we'd really benefit from that time at our next meeting. So I'll figure out like what the rules around agenda formatting so we can make sure that we do have time to discuss, and whether we do just still frame it as a mid-year retreat and that's like our main agenda item. But I just do want to find time for us to be able to come back and have further discussion. Yeah, I know it's weird not having all the committee updates, but that's what we got. I think what would be of real value, though, we wanted to put more in the district newsletter. So maybe if the chairs can touch base with Megan and I about a little blurb about what's happening on each committee to try to get that in an upcoming newsletter. If we could focus on maybe getting something written up for committee updates.
A brief blurb,
brief.
Mail it would be great.
Don't look at me.
And maybe we can target having something ready for the newsletter on the 26th. So we'll have next week to pull together. So if you're a chair, if you could send a blurb to Megan and I by mid next week. Does that work for you, Megan?
Yep.
And then you'll have like Friday to work on it, next Friday?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, and I think we even meet next Friday, so that'll
perfect.
Totally work. I believe next Friday.
Because I also see on the February 5th agenda is the public hearing for the naming of the school.
Yeah, and that is going to be in, the plan is to have it in the what is it called? The
GCA?
The pretty building over there, and have public comment on the names, the top 2 names. So
Melissa will publicize the meeting in all of the avenues leading up to it to to try to get as much community involvement as possible.
Okay, so the idea is February 5th.
The idea is February 5th, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna put the comment.
Tim, did you share that email I sent you about the name? Yeah. Did you share? Well.
About the name of the school?
No, about, I was at a meeting and a resident pulled me over and I typed out what he suggested and I sent it to Tim. So I don't remember what he suggested, but I sent it to Tim.
Basic, well, we already have
Okay.
the names.
Okay.
As suggested.
Okay.
We have 2 finalists.
Carolyn Small
They
or
came in. Yeah.
Greeley Primary, was that it?
Greeley Primary School and the small school, the Carolyn. I mean, that doesn't mean that
But we can do
we
whatever
can't
we
totally go off script and vote for something
We
else.
can do whatever we want.
That is true.
Those were the 2
But those
of
are the top 2,
suggested
yeah.
names, the
Yep.
policy.
That followed the process.
Yep.
And this was, it was generally in relation to the Broadmoor and how we could honor that.
Oh, cool.
And there may be ways to honor other name submissions on campus, but that I don't think that that's been hashed out yet. Further, once a name is picked, the plan is to publicize the other names that did not make the cut, as it were, and tell that story. It'll go through all of the school channels, so it's not going to be possibly broadcast as widely as some might. Like, we can't do a mailing, but we will be highlighting, the Broadmoor School and a lot of the other submissions in explanatory blurbs once the school name is picked, as the stories are so wonderful. We don't want them to, we don't want the stories to fade. I don't know how the Broadmoor name could be incorporated, but it's not totally off the table. It is still something that's sort of lingering here.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Jesse. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thanks, Sean.
Sean's right.
All in favor? Thanks, everyone.
Night, everybody.